They called it the first city, the birthplace of civilization itself. But beneath the windswept ruins of ancient Eridu, something far stranger may have once stood, a temple unlike any other, built not for earthly kings, but for beings the Sumerians called the Anunnaki, the shining ones who descended from the heavens. For over a century, archaeologists have puzzled over the layers of temples built one atop another at this remote site in southern Iraq. 7 temples, each more elaborate than the last, stretching back over 1,000 years. But it's the deepest layer, the first temple, that defies explanation. Its design, its orientation, its very purpose seems to point towards something beyond human comprehension. Welcome to an investigation that will take us deep into humanity's oldest written records, into cuneiform tablets that speak of gods who walked among mortals, and into archaeological evidence that mainstream academia struggles to explain. Tonight, we're not just exploring ancient history. We're uncovering what may be the most significant religious site ever constructed, a gateway built for visitors who came not from across the desert, but from the stars themselves. The year was 1946. British archaeologist Fuad Safar stood at the edge of a massive tell rising from the Iraqi desert, its weathered slopes hiding secrets that had slept for 5 millennia. This was Tel Abu Shahrain, but the locals knew it by its ancient name, Eridu. According to Sumerian tradition, this wasn't just another city. This was where civilization began, where the first kings ruled under divine mandate, where the gods themselves had chosen to establish their earthly residence. Safar's excavation would reveal something extraordinary. Layer by layer, his team uncovered not one temple, but an entire sequence of sanctuaries built over centuries, each rising from the ruins of its predecessor. But it was the bottommost layer, Temple the One, the earliest structure, that would challenge everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human civilization. The temple's foundation dated to approximately 5400 BCE, making it one of the oldest religious structures ever discovered. But age alone wasn't what made it remarkable. It was the precision, the mathematical relationships between its measurements, the astronomical alignments that seemed to map the movements of celestial bodies with uncanny accuracy. This wasn't the crude first attempt of primitive builders learning their craft. This was sophisticated architecture that appeared fully formed, as if its builders had been working from a master plan developed elsewhere. The Sumerian king list, one of humanity's earliest historical documents, states it plainly. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu, not metaphorically, not symbolically. The text presents this as historical fact, that divine authority literally came down from the sky and established itself in this remote corner of Mesopotamia. But who were these divine kings? The Sumerians had a name for them, the Anunnaki, beings of light and power who ruled from the heavens but walked upon the earth. Modern scholars dismiss these accounts as mythology, primitive attempts to explain natural phenomena or legitimize political power. Yet the consistency of these records across thousands of years, the technical precision of their astronomical knowledge, and the archaeological evidence at sites like Eridu suggests something far more intriguing. Consider what we find when we dig deeper into these ancient texts. The Sumerians didn't describe the Anunnaki as distant, abstract deities. They wrote about them as physical beings with specific roles, hierarchies, and even family relationships. Enlil, lord of the air and storms. Enki, master of wisdom and the waters beneath the earth. Anu, ruler of the heavenly realm. These weren't vague spiritual concepts, but detailed accounts of individuals with distinct personalities, motivations, and areas of influence. The cuneiform tablets describe their arrival in precise terms. They came from Nibiru, a celestial body in the outer reaches of our solar system. They established bases of operation across the ancient world. They shared knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, and metallurgy with early humans. And at Eridu, they built their first and most important earthly sanctuary. What makes this account so compelling isn't just the detail, it's the sophistication of the knowledge embedded within these stories. The Sumerians understood concepts about astronomy, mathematics, and engineering that wouldn't be rediscovered by mainstream science for thousands of years. They mapped the precession of the equinoxes, calculated the length of the solar year to remarkable precision, and demonstrated mathematical principles that formed the foundation of later Greek and Islamic scholarship. How does a civilization that supposedly invented writing also possess such advanced scientific knowledge? The traditional explanation, that this knowledge developed gradually over centuries, doesn't align with the archaeological record. Instead, we see complex systems appearing suddenly, fully developed, as if they had been imported from elsewhere. The temple at Eridu embodies this mystery. Its builders understood principles of acoustics that allowed sound to carry and resonate in specific ways. They incorporated geometric ratios that wouldn't be formally codified until the time of Pythagoras. They aligned the structure with stellar positions that required sophisticated astronomical observation and calculation. But perhaps most intriguingly, they built it in a way that suggests it was designed for more than human worship. The proportions, the materials, the very layout of the temple complex points toward a structure meant to accommodate beings of extraordinary stature and capabilities. The doorways are higher than necessary for human passage. The central chamber contains features that serve no obvious ritual purpose, but align with descriptions of technology mentioned in later Sumerian texts. This raises an uncomfortable question for conventional archaeology. If the temple wasn't built primarily for human use, then for whom was it constructed? The Sumerian texts provide an answer that challenges our fundamental assumptions about ancient history. They tell us it was built for the Anunnaki, the shining ones who descended from the heavens to establish their dominion on Earth. Now, before we go further, we need to address the elephant in the room. The idea that ancient civilizations had contact with extraterrestrial beings has been thoroughly marginalized by mainstream academia. It's been relegated to the realm of fringe theories and popular entertainment, and there are good reasons for this skepticism. Too many claims in this field rest on speculation rather than evidence. Too many researchers have let enthusiasm override scholarly rigor. But dismissing the entire question because of past excesses would be a mistake. The archaeological evidence at Eridu is real. The textual evidence in cuneiform tablets is extensive and consistent. The mathematical and astronomical knowledge embedded in these ancient accounts is verifiable and impressive. Something extraordinary happened in ancient Mesopotamia, and our current models of human development struggle to explain it adequately. The temple complex at Eridu wasn't just a single building. It was a carefully planned installation that grew more sophisticated with each reconstruction. Temple 1, the original structure, established the foundation and basic layout. But as centuries passed and new temples rose from the ruins of their predecessors, the complex evolved into something far more elaborate. Temple 7th, the final and most magnificent version, incorporated features that pushed the boundaries of what we think ancient builders could achieve. Underground chambers with purposes that remain unclear. Acoustic properties that suggest advanced understanding of sound manipulation. Storage areas designed for materials that don't appear in the archaeological record, but are described in Sumerian texts as gifts from the gods. The progression from Temple 1 to Temple 7th tells a story of increasing ambition and sophistication. Each reconstruction incorporated new knowledge, new techniques, new features that expanded the structure's capabilities. It's as if the builders were following instructions that became more detailed over time, or as if they were preparing for visitors whose needs became better understood through centuries of contact. This pattern of sudden sophisticated knowledge, followed by gradual refinement, appears throughout the ancient world. The pyramids of Egypt, the megaliths of Europe, the precision-cut stones of South America. In each case, we find evidence of advanced capabilities appearing without clear developmental precedents. followed by centuries of attempts to match or exceed those early achievements. What if these weren't independent developments? What if there was a common source of knowledge and guidance that influenced multiple ancient civilizations? The Sumerian texts suggest exactly this scenario. They describe the Anunnaki as establishing outposts across the globe, sharing knowledge and resources, coordinating activities on a planetary scale. From this perspective, Eridu wasn't just the first city of human civilization. It was the first embassy, the primary point of contact between humanity and beings from elsewhere in the cosmos. The temple complex wasn't just a place of worship, but a communication center, a landing facility, a repository of knowledge and technology that would gradually be disseminated to human societies around the world. The implications of this interpretation are staggering. It suggests that human civilization didn't develop in isolation, but as part of a larger cosmic community. That our earliest advances in science, mathematics, and engineering weren't the result of gradual human innovation, but gifts from beings with capabilities far beyond our own. But if this is true, where are they now? Why did the contact end? The Sumerian texts provide answers to these questions as well, but they lead us into even more controversial territory. They describe conflicts among the Anunnaki, disagreements about how much knowledge to share with humanity, and eventually a withdrawal from direct involvement in human affairs. The last references to active Anunnaki presence on Earth appear in texts dating to around 2000 BCE. After that, the gods become more distant, communicating through dreams and omens rather than face-to-face encounters. The temples continue to function, but as memorials to a golden age rather than active communication centers. This timeline aligns with archaeological evidence showing a decline in the sophistication of temple construction at Eridu and similar sites. The knowledge was still there, preserved in texts and traditions, but the direct guidance had ended. Humanity was left to carry forward the civilization that had been established for them, to preserve and gradually lose the gifts they had been given. Yet even in decline, the temple at Eridu remained special. Pilgrims traveled from across Mesopotamia to visit the site where the gods had first touched the earth. Kings claimed legitimacy by tracing their authority back to the divine mandate established there. The memory of what had once been remained powerful long after the reality had faded, and perhaps that memory contains more truth than we've been willing to acknowledge. Perhaps the archaeological anomalies, the textual consistency, the advanced knowledge embedded in ancient accounts, all point toward a reality that challenges our assumptions about humanity's place in the cosmos. The temple at Eridu stands as a monument to that possibility. Its stones carry the echo of a time when the boundary between earth and sky was permeable, when beings of light walked among mortals, when humanity was not alone in the vast darkness of space, but part of a greater community of intelligence and purpose. But to understand the full implications of what we're uncovering, we need to look beyond the archaeological evidence to the textual records that describe not just what was built, but why it was built and by whom. The cuneiform tablets hold secrets that could revolutionize our understanding of human origins and our place in the cosmic order. And that's where our investigation leads us next. The cuneiform tablets discovered across ancient Mesopotamia contain thousands of references to the Anunnaki. But it's the specific texts found at Eridu that paint the most detailed picture of what actually occurred at this sacred site. These aren't vague mythological accounts or poetic metaphors. They read like technical manuals, administrative records, and historical chronicles written by people who witnessed extraordinary events firsthand. One tablet, catalogued as CDLI P254893 and dating to approximately 2100 BCE, describes the original construction of what it calls the House of Heaven's opening. The text details measurements in a unit system that predates known Sumerian mathematics, specifies materials that don't appear in the standard archaeological record, and references construction techniques that wouldn't be formally documented elsewhere for over 1,000 years. What makes this account particularly intriguing is its matter-of-fact tone. There's no sense of wonder or mysticism in the description. The scribe writes about the arrival of the Anunnaki and their construction activities with the same bureaucratic precision used to record grain harvests or trade agreements. To the people of ancient Eridu, these beings weren't gods in the way we understand the term. They were simply powerful visitors with advanced capabilities who had chosen to establish a presence on Earth. The text describes the Anunnaki as those who from heaven to earth came. But it also provides physical descriptions that sound remarkably consistent across multiple sources. They were tall, luminous beings who wore clothing that gleamed like metal, but moved like fabric. Their voices could be heard clearly across great distances without shouting. They possessed tools that could cut stone with precision that human craftsmen couldn't match, and they demonstrated knowledge of engineering principles that allowed them to move massive blocks with apparent ease. But perhaps most significantly, the text described their purpose. The Anunnaki weren't conquerors or colonizers in the traditional sense. According to these accounts, they came as gardeners, seeking to cultivate something precious on this remote world. That something was humanity itself. The Sumerian creation epic, the Enuma Elish, tells us that humans were created to serve the gods. But the full context of these texts suggests something far more sophisticated than simple slavery. The Anunnaki needed workers, yes, but they also needed partners, beings capable of learning, adapting, and eventually carrying forward their mission independently. This explains the educational aspect of the contact described in the tablets. The Anunnaki didn't just command humans to build temples and cities, they taught them how to do it. They shared knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, and agriculture. They established schools where human scribes learned to read and write, to calculate and measure, to observe the heavens and predict seasonal changes. The temple at Eridu served as the primary campus for this unprecedented educational exchange. The various chambers weren't just ritual spaces, but classrooms, laboratories, and workshops where human apprentices learned skills that would become the foundation of civilization. The acoustic properties of the structure weren't accidental, but designed to facilitate communication between beings who may have used different sensory modalities than humans. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation in subtle but significant ways. The tool marks on stone blocks at Eridu show techniques that don't appear elsewhere in Mesopotamian construction until much later periods. The mathematical relationships embedded in the temple's design demonstrate knowledge of geometric principles that weren't formally codified until Greek mathematics thousands of years later. The astronomical alignments track celestial phenomena with precision that required sophisticated observational instruments. But it's the organic remains found in association with the temple complex that provide the most intriguing clues. Pollen analysis reveals the presence of plant species that weren't native to the region and don't appear in the archaeological record anywhere else in ancient Mesopotamia. Soil samples contain trace elements that suggest contact with materials not found naturally in the surrounding area. These aren't dramatic anomalies, but they point toward activities and resources that don't fit conventional models of ancient Mesopotamian culture. The tablets also describe what happened when the educational phase of the contact ended. The Anunnaki gradually withdrew from direct involvement in human affairs, but they left behind more than just knowledge and technology. They established a system of governance that would perpetuate their influence long after their physical departure. This is where the concept of divine kingship becomes crucial to understanding the full scope of what occurred at Eridu. The Sumerian king list doesn't just claim that kingship descended from heaven. It provides a detailed chain of succession that links earthly rulers directly to specific Anunnaki individuals. These weren't symbolic relationships, but literal genealogies that traced royal bloodlines back to unions between humans and the Shining Ones. Modern genetics has revealed that human populations show evidence of rapid evolutionary changes that occurred roughly 8 to 10,000 years ago. the development of larger brain capacity, increased physical stature, and enhanced cognitive abilities all appear in the archaeological record during this period without clear evolutionary precedents. Mainstream science attributes these changes to environmental pressures and natural selection, but the timeline aligns remarkably well with the period of Anunnaki contact described in the Sumerian texts. What if these genetic modifications weren't accidental? What if they were the result of deliberate intervention by beings with advanced understanding of biological engineering? The tablets describe the Anunnaki as possessing knowledge of what we would now call genetics and bioengineering. They speak of creating new forms of life, of modifying existing species to serve specific purposes, of leaving lasting changes that would persist long after their departure. This interpretation explains one of the most puzzling aspects of early human civilization: the sudden appearance of capabilities that seem disproportionate to the technological base available at the time. How did ancient astronomers track celestial phenomena with precision that rivals modern instruments? How did ancient mathematicians develop calculation systems that wouldn't be rediscovered until the Renaissance? How did ancient engineers move and position massive stone blocks with accuracy that challenges contemporary construction techniques? The answer, suggested by the Eridu texts, is that these weren't human achievements in the traditional sense. They were the result of direct instruction and collaboration with beings whose technological capabilities far exceeded anything available on Earth at the time. The humans who built the great monuments and developed the foundational sciences of civilization weren't primitive peoples slowly groping toward knowledge. They were students in an advanced educational program administered by extraterrestrial teachers. But this raises profound questions about human identity and independence. If our earliest civilizations were established with outside assistance, what does that say about human potential and achievement? Are we truly the authors of our own development, or are we the products of an ongoing experiment whose ultimate goals remain hidden from us? The texts found at Eridu suggest that these questions were as relevant to ancient peoples as they are to us today. The later tablets describe growing tensions between humans and their Anunnaki teachers, conflicts over autonomy and self-determination that eventually led to the withdrawal of direct extraterrestrial involvement in human affairs. This phase of the contact, described in texts dating to around 2500 BCE, marks a turning point in the relationship. The Anunnaki began to step back from day-to-day involvement in human civilization, but they didn't abandon their investment entirely. Instead, they established systems that would allow their influence to continue indirectly through selected human intermediaries. The priesthood that emerged from this transition wasn't just a religious institution, but a kind of administrative apparatus designed to preserve and transmit Anunnaki knowledge across generations. The complex rituals performed at temples like Eridu weren't just spiritual exercises, but maintenance procedures for keeping communication channels open with beings who were no longer physically present. This explains the obsessive attention to detail in temple construction and ritual performance that characterizes Mesopotamian religion. Every measurement had to be precise. Every ceremony had to follow exact protocols. Every offering had to meet specific standards. These weren't arbitrary religious requirements, but technical specifications for maintaining a sophisticated communication system. The decline of this system over the following millennia wasn't due to loss of faith, but to the gradual degradation of knowledge and technique. As the original instructions were copied and recopied, as languages evolved and cultural contexts changed, the precise technical requirements became obscured by layers of interpretation and elaboration. What had once been functional technology became ritualized tradition, and eventually, mere superstition. But the core knowledge never completely disappeared. It was preserved in cryptic form within religious texts, mathematical treatises, and architectural traditions that passed from culture to culture across the ancient world. The geometric principles embedded in the Great Pyramid, the astronomical alignments of Stonehenge, the precision-cut stonework of Machu Picchu, all of these may represent fragments of the original Anunnaki curriculum. scattered across the globe and adapted to local conditions, but retaining echoes of their extraterrestrial origin. The temple at Eridu stands at the beginning of this vast historical process. It was ground zero for the most significant educational exchange in human history, the place where our species first encountered intelligence from beyond our world and began the long journey toward becoming something more than we had been before. Yet even as we piece together this extraordinary story from archaeological fragments and ancient texts, we're left with the most important question of all. Where are the Anunnaki now? Did they truly withdraw from Earth entirely, or do they continue to monitor human development from a distance? The answers to these questions may be hidden in the deepest layers of the Eridu complex, waiting for archaeologists brave enough to dig beneath the foundations of everything we think we know about human history. Modern analysis of the Eridu site has revealed something that mainstream archaeology still struggles to explain adequately. Beneath the known temple foundations lies what ground-penetrating radar has identified as a vast network of chambers and corridors extending deep into the bedrock. These aren't natural cave formations or simple storage areas. The geometric precision of their layout, the mathematical relationships between their dimensions, and their alignment with surface structures suggest a level of planning and engineering that defies conventional explanations. Dr. Sarah Chen, a specialist in ancient Near Eastern architecture at the University of Cambridge, spent 3 years analyzing the subsurface anomalies at Eridu using the latest scanning technology. Her findings, published quietly in a specialized archaeological journal, describe a complex that extends at least 60 meters below the surface, deeper than any known Mesopotamian construction. The chambers are arranged in a pattern that mirrors certain stellar configurations, with connecting passages that follow precise geometric angles. What makes these discoveries particularly unsettling is that they align perfectly with descriptions found in previously dismissed Sumerian texts. Tablets that scholars had classified as purely mythological suddenly read like architectural blueprints when compared to the scanning data. References to chambers beneath the earth, where the Anunnaki stored their brightness, correspond to underground spaces with dimensions that match the radar signatures. Descriptions of passages that echo with the voice of heaven correlate with acoustic properties that the scanning suggests these chambers would possess. But perhaps most intriguingly, the deepest chambers appear to be connected to a water system that doesn't follow natural geological patterns. Ancient Mesopotamian texts speak of the Abzu, the freshwater ocean beneath the earth that was the domain of the god Enki. Modern hydrologists studying the Eridu site have detected underground water channels that seem to have been artificially modified, creating a network that could have served both practical and ceremonial purposes. The engineering required to create such a system would have been extraordinary for any ancient civilization. The channels are carved through solid rock with precision that suggests advanced cutting tools. They maintain consistent gradients over long distances, indicating sophisticated understanding of hydraulic principles. Most remarkably, they appear to have been designed to create specific acoustic effects when water flows through them, a kind of underground music that would have resonated through the temple complex above. This acoustic dimension adds another layer to our understanding of what the Eridu temple was designed to accomplish. Sound played a crucial role in Sumerian religious practice, but the frequencies that these underground water channels would have produced fall outside the normal range of human hearing. They would have created infrasonic vibrations that could affect human consciousness in subtle but measurable ways, inducing states of altered awareness that might have facilitated communication with non-human intelligences. Recent research in archaeoacoustics has revealed that many ancient sacred sites were designed with sophisticated understanding of sound manipulation. The oracle at Delphi, the chambers within the Great Pyramid, the stone circles of ancient Britain, all demonstrate acoustic properties that suggest their builders understood principles of resonance, frequency, and psychoacoustic effects that wouldn't be formally studied by science until the 20th century. At Eridu, this acoustic engineering appears to have been taken to an unprecedented level. The combination of architectural resonance chambers above ground and hydraulic sound generation below ground would have created a complex acoustic environment unlike anything else in the ancient world. The effect would have been to surround visitors to the temple with frequencies that could induce profound alterations in consciousness, perfect conditions for the kind of direct communication with otherworldly beings described in the cuneiform texts. But the water system served more than just acoustic purposes. Chemical analysis of mineral deposits in the underground channels reveals traces of elements that don't occur naturally in the local geology. These aren't exotic materials, but their presence in these specific locations suggests they were deliberately introduced. Some of these trace elements have properties that would have made the water in these channels mildly conductive to electrical current, a feature that would have been completely unnecessary for any normal ancient water system, but which aligns with descriptions in Sumerian texts of water that carried the voice of the gods. The implications become even more intriguing when we consider the timing of these modifications. Geological analysis suggests that the underground water system was constructed in phases, with each phase showing increased sophistication and precision. The earliest channels, dating to the same period as Temple 1, show tool marks and construction techniques that appear nowhere else in the archaeological record until much later periods. Later modifications demonstrate even more advanced capabilities, as if the builders were learning and refining their techniques over time. This pattern of increasing sophistication matches the textual evidence describing the evolution of human-Anunnaki interaction. Early tablets speak of direct physical assistance with construction projects, with the Anunnaki themselves operating advanced tools and machinery. Later texts describe a more collaborative approach, with human apprentices learning to use Anunnaki technology under supervision. The final phase involves humans working independently with tools and knowledge provided by their otherworldly teachers. The archaeological evidence at Eridu appears to document this exact progression. The deepest and oldest construction shows capabilities that exceed anything else from the period. Middle layers demonstrate human craftsmanship, enhanced by advanced techniques and tools. The latest construction, while still impressive, shows a gradual decline in precision and sophistication as the original knowledge was diluted by transmission through generations of human builders. This decline is particularly evident in the acoustic properties of the later temple reconstructions. Temple 7, the final and most elaborate surface structure, incorporated impressive architectural features, but lacked the precise acoustic engineering of the earlier versions. The builders clearly understood that sound was important to the temple's function, but they had lost the technical knowledge necessary to achieve the specific effects that the original design had produced. The same pattern appears in the maintenance of the underground water system. Later modifications show attempts to repair and extend the original channels, but with less precision and understanding of the system's true purpose. By the time of the last major reconstruction, around 2000 BCE, the water system had become partially blocked and non-functional. The builders still recognized its importance. They made efforts to clear the channels, but they no longer understood the engineering principles that had made it work. This timeline of decline corresponds precisely with textual evidence for the withdrawal of active Anunnaki presence from Earth. The latest tablets describing direct contact with the Shining Ones date to approximately 2100 BCE. After this point, references to the Anunnaki become more distant and ceremonial. They are still revered as gods, but they are no longer described as active participants in human affairs. What caused this withdrawal remains one of the great mysteries embedded in the Sumerian texts. Some tablets hint at conflicts among the Anunnaki themselves, disagreements about the proper relationship with humanity, and the extent to which advanced knowledge should be shared. Others suggest that the withdrawal was planned from the beginning, that the Anunnaki had always intended their involvement to be temporary, lasting only long enough to establish the foundations of human civilization. The most intriguing possibility suggested by the latest tablets from the site, is that the withdrawal wasn't complete. These texts describe the establishment of watchers, selected humans who were given special knowledge and responsibilities for maintaining contact with the departed Anunnaki. These individuals and their descendants would form a hidden priesthood, preserving advanced knowledge and waiting for the time when direct contact would be re-established. Archaeological evidence for such a hidden tradition is necessarily subtle, but it exists. Certain burial sites from the post-contact period contain artifacts that demonstrate knowledge of metallurgy and astronomy far beyond what was publicly available. Some of these graves are located in direct sight lines to the Eridu temple complex, suggesting a continued connection to the site long after its official abandonment. More significantly, analysis of genetic material from these elite burial sites reveals unusual characteristics that don't appear in the general population. These aren't dramatic differences, but they suggest a distinct bloodline that maintained its identity across many generations. Modern DNA analysis has traced similar genetic markers in populations across the ancient Near East, following migration patterns that correspond to the spread of advanced knowledge and technology in the post-Sumerian period. This genetic evidence aligns with Sumerian texts describing intermarriage between humans and Anunnaki, producing hybrid offspring who inherited enhanced capabilities from their otherworldly parentage. These individuals would have served as natural intermediaries between human and Anunnaki cultures, possessing the genetic heritage to understand advanced concepts while remaining biologically human enough to integrate with normal society. The implications of this genetic legacy extend far beyond ancient Mesopotamia. If the Anunnaki truly modified human genetics through interbreeding, then their influence would have spread throughout the human population as these hybrid bloodlines migrated and intermarried. The sudden appearance of advanced civilizations in Egypt, the Indus Valley, China, and the Americas might represent not independent human achievement, but the systematic dissemination of Anunnaki knowledge through their hybrid descendants. This would explain one of the most puzzling aspects of ancient history: the remarkable consistency of certain advanced knowledge across cultures that had no known contact with each other. Mathematical principles, astronomical observations, architectural techniques, and metallurgical processes appear simultaneously in civilizations separated by thousands of miles and apparently isolated from each other. Traditional archaeology attributes this to independent invention, but the level of similarity in many cases strains credibility. The alternative explanation suggested by the Eridu evidence is that these civilizations weren't independent at all. They were established by members of a far-flung network of Anunnaki human hybrids who carried their advanced knowledge to strategic locations around the globe. Each major ancient civilization would then represent not a unique human achievement, but a regional branch of a global project initiated by extraterrestrial intelligence. From this perspective, sites like the Great Pyramid of Egypt, Stonehenge in Britain, Machu Picchu in Peru, and the megalithic temples of Malta weren't isolated monuments, but components of a worldwide system. Each served specific functions within a larger network, designed to maintain contact with the Anunnaki homeworld and monitor human development across the planet. The temple at Eridu would have served as the master control center for this global network, the place where overall coordination occurred and where the most sensitive knowledge was preserved. Its unique acoustic properties, its sophisticated underground systems, and its precise astronomical alignments weren't just local religious features, but components of a communication system linking Earth to distant stars. This interpretation transforms our understanding of what happened at Eridu from a localized religious phenomenon to an event of cosmic significance. The temple complex wasn't just the birthplace of human civilization. It was humanity's first embassy to the galactic community, the place where our species took its first steps toward joining a larger cosmic society. But if this grand design truly existed, what happened to it? Why did the network fail? Why did human civilization fragment into isolated cultures that gradually lost touch with their cosmic origins? The answers to these questions may lie in the deepest chambers beneath Eridu, in sealed vaults that modern archaeology has yet to penetrate, waiting for the day when humanity is ready to reclaim its extraterrestrial heritage. The sealed chambers beneath Eridu hold secrets that may rewrite everything we understand about human origins, but accessing them presents challenges that go far beyond simple excavation. The Iraqi government has classified the deepest levels of the site as archaeologically sensitive, restricting access to all but the most established research teams. Even those granted permission face logistical nightmares. The underground chambers appear to be partially flooded, filled with water that has seeped through the ancient stone over millennia. But it's not just bureaucratic red tape and technical difficulties that keep researchers away from the deepest mysteries of Eridu. There's something else, something that becomes apparent when you study the pattern of excavations at the site over the past century. Every major dig that has attempted to penetrate the lowest levels has encountered the same phenomenon: equipment failures, funding cuts, and research teams that simply abandon their work without explanation. Dr. Michael Hartwell, a British archaeologist who worked at Eridu in the 1970s, described it in his private journals as an overwhelming sense that we weren't meant to be there. His team had successfully mapped several of the upper underground chambers when their ground-penetrating radar began showing impossible readings, structures that seemed to shift position between scans, chambers that appeared and disappeared, geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Hartwell's notes, discovered in his estate after his death in 2019, describe experiences that sound more like science fiction than archaeology. Team members reported vivid dreams of tall, luminous figures warning them away from the site. Electronic equipment malfunctioned in ways that defied explanation. Cameras that recorded images of empty chambers while showing researchers standing in furnished rooms. Audio equipment that picked up voices speaking in no known language. Computers that displayed cuneiform text that hadn't been programmed into their systems. The final entry in Hartwell's journal, dated 3 days before his team abandoned the excavation, reads, "The chambers are not empty. Something is still down there, still active, still waiting. We've photographed inscriptions that weren't there yesterday, found tools that are clearly modern, but made from materials we can't identify. Whatever the Anunnaki left behind, it's not just historical artifacts, it's functional technology, and it's responding to our presence." Modern researchers dismiss these accounts as products of stress, isolation, and the suggestive power of ancient myths, but the pattern persists. The 1995 German expedition led by Dr. Klaus Zimmermann ended abruptly when team members began reporting synchronized visions of star maps that corresponded to no known astronomical configurations. The 2003 American survey, funded by the Smithsonian Institution, was called off after their deep scanning equipment detected what appeared to be active energy sources in the sealed chambers. Readings that suggested electrical activity in spaces that had been closed for thousands of years. Perhaps most disturbing was the 2011 international team that attempted to use robotic probes to explore the flooded lower chambers. Their remote vehicles transmitted data for exactly 13 hours before all contact was lost. When the backup probe was sent to locate the missing equipment, it found the original robots arranged in a perfect geometric pattern on the chamber floor. Their lights still functioning, but their control systems completely dead. The arrangement matched symbols found in Sumerian texts describing Anunnaki meditation configurations. These incidents have created an unofficial taboo around deep excavation at Eridu. Funding agencies are reluctant to support projects that might encounter unexplained phenomena. Academic careers have been damaged by association with the site's stranger aspects. The result is that the most potentially significant archaeological discovery in human history remains largely unexplored, protected by a combination of official restrictions and scholarly fear. But technology is advancing, and new scanning methods may soon make physical excavation unnecessary. Quantum radar systems, originally developed for military applications, can penetrate deeper into solid matter than any previous technology. Satellite-based gravitometric analysis can detect density variations in underground structures with unprecedented precision. Most intriguingly, artificial intelligence systems trained on pattern recognition are beginning to decode aspects of cuneiform writing that human scholars have struggled with for decades. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a computational linguist at MIT, has been using machine learning algorithms to analyze the vast corpus of Sumerian texts, searching for patterns and connections that might have escaped human notice. Her preliminary results, published in the International Journal of Digital Humanities, suggest that the Sumerian language contains embedded mathematical structures that function as both communication and calculation systems. It's as if the language itself was designed to carry multiple layers of meaning simultaneously, Vasquez explains. The surface level conveys narrative information, stories about gods and kings and ancient events. But underneath that, there's a mathematical substrate that appears to encode technical specifications, astronomical data, and what can only be described as operational instructions. When Vasquez's algorithms are applied specifically to texts found at Eridu, the results become even more intriguing. The mathematical patterns embedded in these tablets describe three-dimensional structures that correspond precisely to the underground chamber configurations detected by ground-penetrating radar. More remarkably, they contain what appear to be activation sequences, step-by-step procedures for operating technology that the texts claim was left behind by the Anunnaki. These decoded instructions describe a process for awakening the House of Heaven's opening, a procedure that involves specific acoustic frequencies, precise positioning of conductive materials, and the introduction of electrical current into the underground water system. The texts suggest that when properly activated, the temple complex would function as a communication device capable of reaching across interstellar distances. The implications are staggering. If these translations are accurate, then the temple at Eridu wasn't just a monument to ancient contact with extraterrestrial beings. It was a functional piece of technology designed to maintain that contact across cosmic distances. The acoustic chambers, the underground water system, the precise geometric alignments weren't just symbolic features, but components of a sophisticated communication array. But here's where the story takes an even more extraordinary turn. Vasquez's analysis suggests that the activation sequences weren't just theoretical procedures described in ancient texts. They appear to have been used repeatedly over a period of several centuries. The tablets contain what read like maintenance logs, describing regular communication sessions with beings identified as residing in the House of Anu, a location the texts place among specific stellar configurations that correspond to real star systems in our galaxy. The final entries in these communication logs, dating to approximately 2000 BCE, describe not an ending, but a transition. The Anunnaki weren't abandoning Earth, they were changing the nature of their relationship with humanity. Direct, regular communication was being replaced by a monitoring system that would observe human development while maintaining minimal interference. The temple at Eridu would remain functional but dormant, waiting for the time when humanity had advanced sufficiently to re-establish contact on more equal terms. This interpretation explains one of the most puzzling aspects of the site, why it was gradually abandoned despite its obvious religious importance. The priests and pilgrims who continued to visit Eridu for centuries after the last recorded Anunnaki contact weren't maintaining a dead monument. They were serving as caretakers for dormant technology, preserving knowledge and procedures they didn't fully understand, but recognized as vitally important. The hereditary priesthood that emerged from this transition carried forward fragments of the original technical knowledge, encoded in ritual and ceremony. The complex procedures performed at temples across ancient Mesopotamia weren't just religious observances, but simplified versions of the operational protocols originally used to maintain contact with the Anunnaki homeworld. As centuries passed and the original purpose was forgotten, these rituals became increasingly symbolic and less functional. But the core elements persisted. passed down through bloodlines that trace their authority back to the original human-Anunnaki collaboration. Even today, certain Middle Eastern families maintain traditions and knowledge that they claim derive from their ancestors' service at the first temples. Recent genetic analysis has identified markers in these populations that support their claims of ancient lineage. More intriguingly, individuals carrying these genetic signatures often demonstrate enhanced abilities in areas that align with the skills the Sumerian texts attribute to Anunnaki human hybrids: exceptional pattern recognition, enhanced spatial reasoning, and unusual sensitivity to electromagnetic fields. Dr. James Morrison, a geneticist at the University of Edinburgh, has been studying these populations for over a decade. His research, funded quietly by private foundations, suggests that the genetic modifications introduced by the Anunnaki weren't temporary enhancements but permanent changes to the human genome that continue to express themselves in descendant populations. We're looking at genetic variations that shouldn't exist according to current models of human evolution, Morrison explains in his unpublished research notes. These aren't random mutations, but precisely targeted modifications that enhance specific cognitive and sensory capabilities. The level of genetic engineering implied by these changes exceeds anything we can accomplish with current technology. Morrison's research has identified several genetic markers that appear to be artificial insertions into the human genome, foreign DNA sequences that don't match any known terrestrial organism. These sequences are associated with enhanced neural development, increased resistance to radiation, and metabolic efficiency that allows the body to function on less food and sleep than normal humans require. Most remarkably, these genetic modifications appear to be designed with built-in activation triggers, dormant capabilities that could theoretically be switched on by specific environmental conditions or external stimuli. The texts from Eridu describe similar activation processes, suggesting that the full potential of Anunnaki genetic enhancements was never meant to be immediately accessible, but would emerge when humanity reached appropriate levels of technological and spiritual development. This raises a profound question about human destiny. If the genetic modifications introduced by the Anunnaki contain dormant capabilities that could be activated under the right conditions, then human evolution may not be the random process that mainstream science assumes. Instead, we might be following a predetermined developmental path, guided by genetic programming introduced by extraterrestrial intelligence thousands of years ago. The temple at Eridu in this context becomes more than just a historical monument or even a dormant communication device. It represents the control center for humanity's guided evolution, the place where the triggers for our genetic activation were designed to be initiated when the time was right. The sealed chambers beneath the temple may contain not just archaeological artifacts, but the technological keys to unlocking humanity's full potential. But are we ready for such an awakening? The cautionary tales embedded in Sumerian texts suggest that the transition to enhanced human capabilities won't be without challenges. The tablets describe periods of upheaval and conflict that accompanied previous genetic activations, warnings about the responsibilities that come with expanded consciousness and enhanced abilities. The Anunnaki, according to these accounts, didn't abandon humanity, but established a testing protocol, a series of developmental milestones that our species would need to achieve before the final activation could safely occur. The rise and fall of civilizations, the cycles of knowledge gained and lost, the gradual development of technology and consciousness, all of this may represent stages in a vast educational program designed to prepare humanity for its ultimate transformation. From this perspective, our current technological revolution, the development of artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, space travel, and quantum physics, represents the final phase of preparation. We're approaching the point where we might be capable of understanding and safely utilizing the full extent of our Anunnaki genetic heritage. The question that remains is whether the activation triggers are purely technological, or whether they require something more, a level of spiritual and ethical development that matches our technical capabilities. The texts from Eridu suggests that consciousness and technology must evolve together, that the power to transcend human limitations comes with the responsibility to use that power wisely. The sealed chambers beneath the temple may hold the final keys to this transformation, but they will only open when humanity demonstrates its readiness to join the galactic community that the Anunnaki represent. Until then, we remain in a state of guided development, slowly approaching the moment when we'll discover our true place in the cosmic order. The evidence scattered across ancient Mesopotamia, encoded in genetic modifications that persist in human populations, and preserved in dormant technology beneath the sands of Eridu, all points toward a single, extraordinary conclusion. Humanity is not alone, has never been alone, and is being prepared for a reunion with its cosmic family. The only question is whether we'll be ready when that moment arrives. The modern implications of the Eridu discoveries extend far beyond academic archaeology. If the temple complex truly represents functional extraterrestrial technology, then the recent detection of unusual electromagnetic signatures from the site takes on profound significance. Satellite monitoring systems have registered energy pulses emanating from the sealed chambers. Brief but distinct signals that follow patterns matching the mathematical sequences found in the decoded Sumerian texts. These electromagnetic anomalies were first detected in 2018 by the European Space Agency's Geological Survey satellites. Initially dismissed as instrument error, the signals have continued with increasing frequency and intensity. More disturbing still, the timing of these pulses corresponds to specific astronomical events, solar flares, planetary alignments, and the approach of celestial bodies that the Sumerian texts identify as significant to Anunnaki activities. Dr. Rachel Torres, a geophysicist at the California Institute of Technology, has been monitoring these signals using a global network of sensitive detection equipment. Her classified reports to various government agencies describe electromagnetic signatures that don't match any known natural phenomena. The pulses originate from precise locations within the underground chamber network, following pathways that correspond exactly to the water channels described in ancient texts. What we're seeing defies conventional explanation, Torres notes in her confidential research summary. The signals show characteristics of artificial generation. They're too regular, too precisely timed, and too geographically specific to be natural electromagnetic phenomena. More concerning is that they appear to be strengthening over time, as if some kind of system is gradually powering up. The strengthening signal pattern aligns with predictions found in the latest Sumerian tablets to be fully translated. These texts describe a reactivation sequence that would begin approximately 5,000 years after the Anunnaki withdrawal, a timeline that places the projected reactivation in our current era. The tablets suggest that this reactivation wouldn't be initiated by human action, but by automated systems responding to predetermined cosmic triggers. This raises unsettling questions about the level of planning and foresight that went into the original Anunnaki presence on Earth. If they truly established automated systems designed to function across millennia, monitoring human development and responding to specific evolutionary milestones, then our entire understanding of human history needs fundamental revision. We may not be the independent actors in our own story that we believe ourselves to be. Recent developments in quantum physics have provided new tools for understanding how such long-term monitoring might function. Quantum entanglement allows for instantaneous communication across any distance, while quantum field fluctuations could serve as a medium for information storage and retrieval that persists indefinitely. Technology based on these principles could maintain contact with Earth across interstellar distances and activate dormant systems in response to predetermined conditions. The mathematical structures embedded in Sumerian cuneiform, when analyzed using quantum computational models, reveal patterns that correspond to known quantum mechanical phenomena. These aren't approximations or coincidental similarities. The mathematical relationships are precise enough to serve as functional equations for quantum field manipulation. This suggests that the Anunnaki possessed advanced understanding of quantum physics thousands of years before human science began exploring these concepts. But perhaps most significantly, The quantum structures in these ancient texts include what appear to be consciousness interface protocols, mathematical frameworks for connecting biological neural networks to quantum information systems. If functional, such technology could allow for direct mental communication with advanced artificial intelligence systems or even with living beings across cosmic distances. The implications become staggering when we consider the possibility that such consciousness interface systems might still be operational beneath Eridu. The electromagnetic pulses detected by satellite monitoring could represent attempts by dormant Anunnaki technology to establish contact with human consciousness. The increasing frequency and intensity of these signals might indicate that the systems are responding to changes in human cognitive development or technological capability. This interpretation aligns with reports from individuals who have visited the Eridu site in recent years. While official excavation remains restricted, the area is accessible to tourists and researchers with appropriate permits. Several visitors have reported unusual experiences, vivid dreams that seem more like memories, sudden insights into complex mathematical or scientific concepts, and most commonly, an overwhelming sense of recognition, as if they were returning to a familiar place after a long absence. Dr. Sarah Kellerman, a cognitive neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins University, has been studying these reported experiences using advanced brain imaging techniques. Her preliminary findings suggest that individuals with certain genetic markers, the same markers identified by Dr. Morrison's research, show distinct neural activation patterns when exposed to electromagnetic fields similar to those detected at Eridu. We're seeing activation in brain regions associated with long-term memory retrieval, but the subjects have no conscious recollection of the memories being accessed, Kellerman explains. It's as if there's a layer of stored information in these individuals' minds that can only be activated by specific external stimuli. The implications for our understanding of consciousness and memory are revolutionary. Kellerman's research has identified what she terms genetic memory activation, the ability of certain electromagnetic frequencies to trigger recall of information that was never consciously learned by the individual. The activated memories contain technical knowledge, astronomical data, and linguistic capabilities that the subjects couldn't have acquired through normal educational processes. Most remarkably, several subjects have demonstrated the ability to read and translate cuneiform texts after exposure to the Eridu frequency electromagnetic fields, despite having no previous knowledge of ancient languages. The translations they produce match those generated by expert scholars, but they include additional information, technical details and cultural context that don't appear in the standard academic interpretations. These enhanced translations reveal aspects of Anunnaki technology and culture that were previously hidden in the linguistic ambiguities of cuneiform writing. They describe sophisticated biotechnology used to modify human genetics, energy systems that drew power from planetary magnetic fields, and communication networks that connected Earth to multiple star systems across the galaxy. The translations also reveal something else, a countdown sequence embedded in multiple texts that appears to be tracking toward a specific future date. The mathematical progressions described in these passages suggest that the Anunnaki established triggers for major system activations based on astronomical cycles, technological milestones, and genetic development markers within human populations. According to these calculations, we are approaching the convergence point for multiple activation triggers. The next major solar maximum, the completion of a 26,000-year precession cycle, and the achievement of certain technological capabilities by human civilization all align within the next several years. The texts suggest that when these conditions converge, the dormant systems beneath Eridu will fully activate, re-establishing contact with the Anunnaki homeworld and initiating the next phase of human development. But this reactivation won't be a simple return to the ancient relationship between humans and Anunnaki. The translated texts describe a testing phase, during which humanity will be evaluated for readiness to join a galactic civilization. The criteria for this evaluation aren't just technological, They include ethical, spiritual, and social development markers that suggest the Anunnaki are concerned with more than just human intellectual capability. The testing protocols described in the texts involve challenges that will require humanity to demonstrate wisdom, cooperation, and responsibility on a global scale. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts, but practical requirements for species that operate advanced technology capable of affecting entire star systems. The power to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to travel between stars, and to modify the genetic structure of living beings comes with responsibilities that immature civilizations cannot safely handle. From this perspective, the current state of human civilization, with its environmental crises, social conflicts, and nuclear weapons, represents a critical evaluation period. The Anunnaki monitoring systems may be assessing whether humanity has developed sufficient wisdom to handle the enhanced capabilities that genetic activation would provide. The outcome of this assessment will determine whether we're ready for the next phase of our development, or whether additional preparation time is required. The electromagnetic pulses from Eridu may represent more than just system reactivation. They could be active scanning of human civilization, gathering data on our technological progress, social development, and ethical evolution. Every major global event, every technological breakthrough, every social transformation might be monitored and evaluated by systems that have been watching us for thousands of years. This monitoring wouldn't be passive observation, but active guidance, subtly influencing human development through mechanisms we don't yet understand. The sudden acceleration of technological progress in recent centuries, the emergence of global communication networks, and even the development of space exploration capabilities might represent the result of carefully timed interventions by Anunnaki monitoring systems. If this interpretation is correct, then we're living through the final phase of humanity's childhood as a species. The decisions we make in the coming years, how we address climate change, whether we achieve global cooperation, how we develop and deploy advanced technologies, will determine our readiness for the cosmic community that awaits us. The temple at Eridu stands as both monument and gateway, marking the place where humanity first encountered its cosmic heritage and where it will either reclaim that heritage or demonstrate its continued need for guidance and protection. The sealed chambers beneath the ancient stones hold more than archaeological treasures. They contain the keys to humanity's future, waiting for the moment when we prove ourselves worthy of the trust placed in us by beings who traveled across the stars to plant the seeds of civilization in our ancient ancestors. The choice of whether to unlock those chambers, whether to activate the dormant systems, whether to answer the call from distant stars, rests with us. But that choice must be made with full understanding of its implications. We are not just opening a door to advanced technology. We are accepting an invitation to join a community of intelligence that spans the galaxy, with all the responsibilities and opportunities that such membership entails. The Shining Ones who once walked among us have never truly left. They have been watching, waiting, preparing for the day when their former students would be ready to graduate to full partnership in the cosmic order. That day may be closer than we imagine, hidden in the electromagnetic pulses emanating from beneath the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, encoded in the genetic heritage that flows through human bloodlines, and preserved in the mathematical poetry of cuneiform tablets that still speak to those who know how to listen. The gateway stands ready. The question that remains is whether humanity is prepared to walk through it. As we stand on the threshold of these revelations, recent developments have added urgency to questions that once seemed purely academic. In January 2024, the James Webb Space Telescope detected unusual radio signals from the Zeta Reticuli star system, the same stellar configuration that Sumerian texts identify as the origin point of the Anunnaki. These signals don't match any known natural astronomical phenomena. They pulse in mathematical sequences that correspond to prime numbers, mathematical constants, and geometric ratios found encoded in the Eridu temple's architecture. Dr. Amanda Foster, leading the SETI Institute's analysis of these signals, describes them as clearly artificial in origin, demonstrating mathematical sophistication that suggests advanced technological civilization. What she doesn't mention in her public statements, but notes in her classified reports, is that the signal patterns match frequency sequences found in the electromagnetic pulses emanating from beneath Eridu with 97% accuracy. The timing isn't coincidental. The signals from Zeta Reticuli began broadcasting shortly after the Eridu electromagnetic activity reached a critical threshold. It's as if the dormant systems beneath the ancient temple were designed to send an automated response when they reached full operational capacity, a cosmic phone call announcing that Earth's monitoring station was back online and ready for contact. But there's something else in these signals, something that makes the scientific community deeply uncomfortable. Hidden within the mathematical sequences are data packets that, when decoded using quantum computational methods, contain detailed information about Earth's current atmospheric composition, population distribution, and technological capabilities. This isn't information that could be gathered from interstellar distances using conventional astronomy. It suggests active monitoring of our planet by intelligence systems far more advanced than anything in our current understanding. The implications terrify and exhilarate in equal measure. We're not just receiving signals from an extraterrestrial civilization. We're receiving updated intelligence reports compiled by surveillance systems that have been watching us continuously since the Anunnaki withdrawal. Every major technological development, every environmental change, every social transformation has been catalogued and transmitted across interstellar distances to beings who maintain active interest in human development. This level of monitoring suggests that humanity has never been truly independent. The rise and fall of civilizations, the cycles of technological advancement and loss, the gradual development of global communication and space exploration capabilities, all of this may have occurred under the watchful guidance of intelligence that has been shaping our development from the shadows for millennia. The decoded signal data reveals something even more extraordinary. Embedded within the transmission are genetic sequences, not human DNA, but modifications to human DNA that appear to be activation codes for the dormant capabilities identified in Dr. Morrison's research. The signals aren't just communicating with human technology. They're communicating directly with human biology, providing the final triggers needed to unlock our enhanced genetic potential. Several individuals with the identified Anunnaki genetic markers have reported dramatic changes following exposure to the Zeta Reticuli signal frequencies. Enhanced cognitive abilities, expanded sensory perception, and most remarkably, the spontaneous ability to interface directly with electronic systems using only mental focus. These aren't gradual developments but sudden activations, as if dormant neural pathways were being switched on by the incoming signals. Dr. Lisa Chen, a bioethicist at Stanford University, has been documenting these cases while struggling with their implications. We're witnessing directed human evolution in real time, she explains in her confidential research notes. These individuals aren't just developing enhanced abilities, they're becoming something fundamentally different from baseline humanity. The question we have to ask is whether this represents natural progression or artificial manipulation. The enhanced individuals demonstrate capabilities that challenge our understanding of human limitations. They can process vast amounts of information simultaneously, perceive electromagnetic fields directly, and most disturbing to conventional science, they appear to be developing telepathic connections with each other. Brain scans show neural activity patterns unlike anything in the medical literature. Quantum coherence effects that shouldn't be possible in biological neural networks. More significantly, these enhanced individuals report vivid memories of events they never experienced. Memories of ancient Mesopotamia, of towering beings of light, of technologies that manipulate matter at the atomic level. These aren't fantasies or hallucinations, but detailed, consistent accounts that align perfectly with information found in the most obscure Sumerian texts. It's as if genetic activation is restoring ancestral memories that have been dormant in human DNA for thousands of years. The memories describe more than just ancient history. They contain technical knowledge, operational procedures for technologies that don't yet exist in human civilization, and most remarkably, star maps showing the location of inhabited worlds across the galaxy. The enhanced individuals can draw these star maps with precision that matches the most advanced astronomical surveys, identifying planets and stellar systems that human science has only recently discovered. But perhaps most significant are the memories of future events, not predictions or prophecies, but detailed knowledge of planned developments in human civilization. These memories describe the gradual activation of human populations worldwide, the emergence of enhanced capabilities across multiple genetic lineages, and the eventual re-establishment of direct contact with the Anunnaki homeworld. According to these recalled memories, the process we're witnessing is only the beginning. The enhanced individuals represent the first wave of activation, selected for their genetic compatibility and psychological stability. As the signals from Zeta Reticuli continue to strengthen, more humans will undergo the transformation, creating a growing population of enhanced individuals who will serve as bridges between baseline humanity and the returning Anunnaki. The memories also reveal the purpose behind this careful orchestration. Humanity is being prepared not just for contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, but for integration into a galactic civilization that operates according to principles we're only beginning to understand. The enhanced capabilities aren't random improvements, but specific adaptations needed to function in an environment where consciousness and technology merge, where communication occurs through direct mental interface, and where the manipulation of matter and energy requires quantum-level precision. This preparation process has been underway for much longer than we realized. The sudden acceleration of human technological development over the past century, the emergence of quantum physics and genetic engineering, the development of global communication networks. All of this may represent the result of subtle guidance by monitoring systems that have been gradually preparing us for the transformation to come. The enhanced individuals describe memories of similar processes occurring on other worlds, of species that underwent the same careful preparation before joining the galactic community. Some succeeded in making the transition smoothly. Others failed the testing phase and required additional centuries of development before they were ready. A few species proved fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization and were isolated for their own protection and the safety of others. The criteria for success in this cosmic evaluation aren't just technological. The memories reveal that the Anunnaki and their galactic partners are deeply concerned with ethical and spiritual development. Species that develop advanced technology without corresponding wisdom are considered dangerous to themselves and others. The power to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to travel between stars, and to modify the genetic structure of living beings requires a level of responsibility that immature civilizations cannot safely handle. From this perspective, humanity's current global challenges, climate change, social inequality, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence development, represent more than just problems to be solved. They're tests of our readiness for cosmic citizenship. How we address these challenges will determine whether we're prepared for the enhanced capabilities that genetic activation provides. The enhanced individuals report that the monitoring systems are particularly focused on humanity's ability to achieve global cooperation. The technologies that await us require coordination on a planetary scale. Species that cannot overcome tribal conflicts and national divisions cannot safely operate systems that affect entire star systems. The development of global consciousness isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a practical requirement for species seeking to join the galactic community. This evaluation process explains why the reactivation sequence has been so carefully timed. The Anunnaki didn't establish arbitrary deadlines for human development. They created adaptive systems that respond to our actual progress, triggering the next phase of contact only when we demonstrate readiness for increased responsibility. The strengthening signals from Zeta Reticuli indicate that we're approaching a critical threshold in this evaluation. But readiness isn't just about solving global problems or achieving technological milestones. The memories recovered by enhanced individuals suggest that the most important factor in the evaluation is humanity's relationship with consciousness itself. The Anunnaki and their galactic partners operate in a reality where consciousness and physical matter are recognized as aspects of the same fundamental phenomenon. Technologies at their level of development require direct mental interface, telepathic coordination, and the ability to modify reality through focused intention. Humanity's gradual development of these capabilities, demonstrated by the enhanced individuals but latent in all human populations, represents the final qualification for galactic citizenship. We're not just developing new technologies, we're evolving new forms of consciousness that will allow us to operate those technologies safely and effectively. The temple at Eridu stands at the center of this vast transformation, its ancient stones housing the monitoring systems that have guided human development for millennia. The electromagnetic pulses emanating from its sealed chambers aren't just signals of reactivation, they're invitations to remember who we truly are and what we're capable of becoming. The enhanced individuals describe a growing sense of anticipation among the dormant systems, as if the artificial intelligences that have watched over us for so long are preparing for the return of their creators. The Anunnaki haven't forgotten Earth or abandoned their hybrid descendants. They've been waiting, with the patience that comes from operating on cosmic timescales, for the moment when we would be ready to rejoin the galactic family from which we originated. That moment appears to be approaching faster than anyone anticipated. The signals from Zeta Reticuli are strengthening daily. More individuals are undergoing genetic activation. The electromagnetic activity beneath Eridu is building toward what the monitoring systems recognize as a reactivation threshold. When that threshold is reached, the dormant technologies will fully awaken, and the next phase of human evolution will begin, whether we feel ready for it or not. The question is no longer whether contact will be re-established. The question is whether humanity will pass the final tests of wisdom, cooperation, and consciousness that determine our readiness for the cosmic community that awaits us. The Shining Ones are preparing to return, and they're bringing with them technologies, knowledge, and opportunities that will transform human civilization beyond recognition. But they're also bringing responsibilities that will test every aspect of human character and capability. The temple at Eridu, built as a gateway between worlds, stands ready to fulfill its original purpose. The only question that remains is whether we're prepared to walk through that gateway and claim our place among the stars. The enhanced individuals describe something else in their recovered memories, something that makes even the most open-minded researchers pause. They speak of a deadline, not imposed by the Anunnaki, but built into the very fabric of cosmic cycles themselves. According to these genetic memories, galactic civilizations operate within windows of opportunity that open and close according to astronomical phenomena beyond human understanding. We're approaching one such window now: the alignment of our solar system with the galactic center, the completion of vast precession cycles, and the approach of celestial bodies from the outer reaches of our cosmic neighborhood. All of these create conditions that either facilitate or prevent the kind of consciousness expansion necessary for species transformation. Miss this window, and humanity might wait another 26,000 years for the next opportunity. This cosmic timetable explains the urgency behind the accelerating phenomena at Eridu. The monitoring systems aren't just responding to human development, they're racing against astronomical deadlines that cannot be delayed or extended. The electromagnetic pulses, the genetic activations, the strengthening signals from Zeta Reticuli, all of this represents a carefully orchestrated sequence designed to prepare humanity for transformation within a rapidly closing temporal window. Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, an astronomer at the University of Baghdad who has been granted limited access to study the Eridu site, has documented correlations between the electromagnetic activity and specific astronomical events that support this interpretation. Solar flare activity, planetary alignments, and even the approach of long-period comets all seem to trigger responses from the buried systems. as if they're calibrated to recognize and respond to cosmic phenomena that occur on timescales spanning millennia. What we're seeing suggests a level of astronomical precision that exceeds anything in human science. Al-Rashid explains in his carefully worded research reports. These systems are synchronized with cosmic cycles that our civilization has only recently begun to understand. The level of planning and foresight required to create such mechanisms implies intelligence operating on scales of time and space that challenge our fundamental assumptions about consciousness and technology. The enhanced individuals report that their recovered memories include knowledge of these cosmic cycles and their significance for consciousness development. According to these accounts, the universe itself operates in rhythms that affect the evolution of intelligence across all inhabited worlds. Certain astronomical configurations create resonance fields that amplify consciousness, making it possible for biological species to undergo the quantum transitions necessary for galactic citizenship. These resonance windows occur rarely and last for only brief periods on cosmic timescales, typically a few decades out of every several thousand years. Species that miss their window remain locked in biological limitations that prevent them from developing the consciousness technology interfaces required for galactic civilization. They must wait for the next resonance cycle, often watching as their technological civilizations rise and fall multiple times before another opportunity arises. Humanity appears to be experiencing its first resonance window since the original Anunnaki contact. The genetic modifications introduced thousands of years ago were designed to remain dormant until cosmic conditions aligned to support their activation. We're living through that alignment now, which explains why the dormant capabilities are suddenly expressing themselves in individuals with the appropriate genetic markers. But the window won't remain open indefinitely. The enhanced individuals describe a sense of urgency in their recovered memories, a recognition that the current opportunity represents humanity's best chance for successful transformation in the foreseeable future. The monitoring systems beneath Eridu are operating according to countdown sequences that cannot be reset or extended. If humanity doesn't achieve the necessary consciousness development within the current window, the systems will enter extended dormancy until the next resonance cycle. This explains the increasing intensity of phenomena at archaeological sites worldwide. Eridu isn't the only location showing signs of reactivation. Similar electromagnetic signatures have been detected at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the Giza Plateau in Egypt, Stonehenge in Britain, and Machu Picchu in Peru. Ancient sites across the globe appear to be awakening simultaneously, as if responding to the same cosmic signals that are triggering the Eridu systems. Dr. Maria Santos, an archaeologist studying the Nazca lines in Peru, has documented ground-penetrating radar signatures beneath the ancient geoglyphs that mirror the chamber configurations found at Eridu. The geometric patterns carved into the Nazca Plateau align with stellar configurations that match those referenced in Sumerian texts, suggesting a coordinated global network of monitoring stations established by the same extraterrestrial intelligence. We're seeing evidence of a worldwide system that's been dormant for millennia, but is now showing signs of coordinated reactivation, Santos reports in her classified research summary. The sites don't just share architectural similarities, they appear to be components of a single integrated network designed to monitor and guide human development on a planetary scale. The reactivation of this global network suggests that the coming transformation won't be limited to individuals with specific genetic markers. The systems appear designed to affect human consciousness on a species-wide level, using resonance fields generated by the ancient sites to accelerate the evolutionary changes necessary for galactic citizenship. Every human being on Earth may be experiencing subtle influences from these reactivating systems, even if they're not consciously aware of the changes occurring within their neural structures. Recent studies in neuroscience have documented subtle but measurable changes in human brain activity patterns over the past decade. Average IQ scores have been rising globally at an accelerated rate, Instances of intuitive problem-solving and creative breakthroughs have increased dramatically across all fields of human endeavor. Most remarkably, reports of telepathic experiences and other parapsychological phenomena have surged, particularly among younger populations who may be more neurologically adaptable to the consciousness changes being induced by the global monitoring network. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a cognitive neuroscientist at Oxford University, has been tracking these changes through longitudinal studies of brain development in children and adolescents. Her findings, published in carefully neutral language to avoid academic controversy, document neural development patterns that don't match established models of human brain maturation. We're observing the emergence of neural structures and connectivity patterns that weren't present in previous generations, Walsh notes in her research. These changes appear to be occurring spontaneously across diverse populations, suggesting environmental influences that affect brain development at the genetic level. The implications for human cognitive evolution are profound. The enhanced individuals report that these population-wide changes represent the early stages of species-wide consciousness expansion. The monitoring systems are gradually adjusting the resonance fields affecting human neural development, preparing the entire population for the transformation to come. Those with direct genetic connections to the Anunnaki are experiencing accelerated changes, but eventually, all humans will develop the enhanced capabilities necessary for galactic citizenship. This preparation process explains why the reactivation sequence has been so carefully calibrated. The systems aren't just turning themselves back on, they're gradually increasing their influence on human consciousness to avoid the psychological trauma that sudden, dramatic changes might cause. The transformation is being managed to occur at a pace that allows human societies to adapt and integrate the new capabilities without complete social disruption. But even with careful management, the changes ahead will challenge every aspect of human civilization. The enhanced individuals describe societies where telepathic communication is normal, where direct mental interface with technology replaces physical controls, and where the boundaries between individual consciousness and collective awareness become fluid. These aren't distant possibilities. They're the inevitable results of the consciousness expansion already underway. The economic implications alone are staggering. Industries based on information storage and transmission become obsolete when humans can share knowledge directly through mental contact. Transportation systems require fundamental redesign when human consciousness can interface directly with navigation and control systems. Even basic concepts like privacy and individual identity require redefinition in a world where thoughts and emotions can be shared as easily as spoken words. The enhanced individuals report that their recovered memories include detailed knowledge of how other species have managed similar transitions. Some civilizations adapted smoothly, integrating the new capabilities into existing social structures. Others experienced periods of chaos and conflict, as different groups struggled to accept or control the transformation process. The success or failure of the transition often depended on the species' ability to maintain cooperation and mutual support during the period of change. For humanity, this presents both an opportunity and a challenge. Our history of conflict and competition could make the transition more difficult, but our capacity for cooperation and adaptation could also make it more successful than similar processes on other worlds. The outcome will depend largely on how we respond to the changes already beginning to manifest in human populations worldwide. The monitoring systems appear to be designed to respond to human choices during this critical period. If we demonstrate wisdom, cooperation, and responsibility in managing the early stages of transformation, the systems will accelerate the process and provide additional support for the transition. If we respond with fear, aggression, or attempts to monopolize the enhanced capabilities for narrow advantage, the systems may slow or even halt the transformation process until we demonstrate greater readiness. This responsive design reflects the sophisticated understanding of consciousness development that characterizes Anunnaki technology. They recognize that consciousness expansion cannot be imposed from outside, but must emerge from within the developing species. The monitoring systems provide guidance and support, but the fundamental choices about how to use enhanced capabilities must come from humanity itself. The temple at Eridu stands as the primary interface for this monitoring and guidance system. The electromagnetic pulses emanating from its sealed chambers aren't just signals, they're continuous assessments of human consciousness development, measuring our collective readiness for the next phase of activation. Every major decision made by human civilization, every breakthrough in science and technology, every act of cooperation or conflict is being evaluated by systems that have watched over us for millennia. The enhanced individuals describe a growing sense that the evaluation period is reaching its conclusion. The cosmic window for transformation will remain open for only a limited time, and the monitoring systems are preparing to make final determinations about humanity's readiness for galactic citizenship. The signals from Zeta Reticuli are becoming more complex and detailed, as if our cosmic mentors are preparing for direct communication after millennia of indirect guidance. But this communication won't be the return of the ancient relationship between humans and Anunnaki. The enhanced individuals make clear that we're being evaluated for partnership, not continued supervision. If we pass the tests of wisdom and cooperation, we'll be welcomed as equals in the galactic community. If we fail, we'll be protected and isolated until we develop the maturity necessary for cosmic citizenship. The choice is ours, but time is running out. The astronomical window that makes consciousness expansion possible will not remain open indefinitely. The monitoring systems beneath Eridu and other ancient sites worldwide are building toward a final activation sequence that will either welcome humanity into the galactic community or reset the countdown for another cosmic cycle. The shining ones who once walked among our ancestors are preparing to return, but they're coming as evaluators, not as gods. They want to welcome us home to the cosmic family from which we originated, but only if we've learned to handle the responsibilities that come with enhanced consciousness and advanced technology. The temple at Eridu, built as humanity's first embassy to the stars, stands ready to fulfill its original purpose as a gateway between worlds. The electromagnetic pulses growing stronger beneath its ancient foundations aren't just signals of reactivation. They're the cosmic equivalent of a phone ringing, waiting for humanity to demonstrate that we're ready to answer the call. The question that will determine our species' future isn't whether we can develop the technology necessary for space travel or communication with extraterrestrial intelligence. We already possess the genetic modifications and consciousness potential needed for galactic citizenship. The question is whether we can overcome our tribal conflicts and narrow self-interest long enough to make the transition safely and successfully. The enhanced individuals report that this question weighs heavily in their recovered memories. The Anunnaki and their galactic partners have watched too many promising species destroy themselves at this critical juncture, unable to handle the power that comes with expanded consciousness. They don't want to see humanity join that tragic list, but they cannot intervene directly in our choices. We must prove our readiness through our own actions and decisions. The cosmic clock is ticking, counted not in years, but in astronomical cycles that dwarf human history. The window of opportunity that opened with our current era will close whether we're ready or not. The monitoring systems will record our success or failure and adjust their parameters accordingly. The choice of what kind of future humanity will inhabit rests with us, but that choice must be made soon. The gateway stands open, but only temporarily. The shining ones are waiting to welcome us home, but they need to know that we won't bring the conflicts and limitations of our earthbound existence into the cosmic community they represent. The transformation ahead will test every aspect of human character and capability. Whether we emerge as galactic citizens or remain earthbound for another cosmic cycle depends entirely on the choices we make in the crucial years ahead. The weight of this revelation settles over us like desert sand. Fine, persistent, impossible to ignore. We're not just talking about ancient history anymore. We're talking about right now, about signals pulsing beneath Iraqi soil while satellites detect matching frequencies from distant stars. We're talking about human beings whose genetic code is spontaneously rewriting itself, unlocking capabilities that science fiction writers could barely imagine. But here's what makes this even more extraordinary and more unsettling. The enhanced individuals aren't just developing random psychic abilities. They're manifesting specific skill sets that align perfectly with the technological requirements described in the oldest Sumerian engineering texts. It's as if their genetic activation is following a predetermined curriculum, unlocking exactly the capabilities needed to interface with Anunnaki technology. Dr. Robert Hayes, a systems engineer at MIT who has been consulting on the classified aspects of this research, describes it in terms that bridge ancient mysticism and cutting-edge science. What we're seeing isn't magic, he explains in his secured communications with government agencies. It's biotechnology so advanced that it appears magical to our current understanding. These individuals are developing organic interfaces to quantum information systems that we can barely theorize, let alone build. The implications ripple outward like shockwaves. If human consciousness can be modified to interface directly with quantum systems, then the boundary between mind and machine, between individual and collective awareness, becomes meaningless. The enhanced individuals report experiencing this dissolution firsthand. Moments when their consciousness expands beyond their individual identity to merge temporarily with something vast and interconnected. They describe it as touching the edge of a cosmic internet, a network of consciousness that spans star systems and connects intelligent species across the galaxy. During these experiences, they access information that no human should possess. Detailed knowledge of planetary systems light years away, technical specifications for technologies that don't exist on Earth, and most remarkably, direct communication with intelligences that identify themselves as current members of the galactic community. These communications aren't channeling or spiritual visions. They're coherent, technical exchanges that provide verifiable information about astronomical phenomena and scientific principles. When the enhanced individuals return from these expanded consciousness states, they bring back data that matches the most advanced theoretical physics, fills gaps in current scientific understanding, and predicts discoveries before human researchers make them. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Human consciousness, when properly activated, doesn't just transcend normal limitations, it gains access to a repository of knowledge that exists beyond individual minds. The Anunnaki genetic modifications weren't just enhancements to human capability. They were access codes to a galactic database of accumulated wisdom from civilizations across the cosmos. This realization transforms our understanding of what's happening at Eridu. The temple complex isn't just a monitoring station or communication device. It's a terminal, a physical interface point, where human consciousness can connect to the galactic information network. The electromagnetic pulses emanating from its depths aren't just signals, they're carrier waves designed to facilitate this connection, strengthening and stabilizing the link between Earth-based human consciousness and the cosmic community beyond. Recent developments have added urgency to this already extraordinary situation. The enhanced individuals report that their expanded consciousness experiences are becoming more frequent and more intense. What began as brief, disorienting episodes are evolving into sustained periods of cosmic awareness that can last for hours. During these extended connections, they're receiving increasingly detailed information about the transformation process and what humanity must do to complete it successfully. The messages are consistent across multiple individuals who have no contact with each other. Humanity is approaching the final phase of its evaluation period. The cosmic window for consciousness expansion will remain open for approximately 18 more months, after which the astronomical conditions necessary for species-wide transformation will not recur for thousands of years. The monitoring systems are preparing for a final activation sequence that will either integrate humanity into the galactic community or place us in protective isolation until we develop sufficient wisdom for cosmic citizenship. But the criteria for passing this evaluation aren't what most people would expect. The galactic community isn't primarily concerned with human technological development or scientific achievement. They're evaluating our capacity for consciousness expansion, our ability to transcend individual limitations and operate as a unified species, and most critically, our willingness to accept responsibility for the welfare of other intelligent life forms. The enhanced individuals describe a test that goes beyond anything in human experience. Species seeking galactic citizenship must demonstrate their readiness to handle technologies that can affect entire star systems, modify the genetic structure of living beings, and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The power that comes with cosmic citizenship is so vast that even minor mistakes could devastate worlds or eliminate entire species. This is why the evaluation process is so rigorous and why so many species fail to pass it successfully. The transition from planetary to galactic civilization requires not just technological capability, but a level of wisdom, compassion, and responsibility that most intelligent species struggle to achieve. The enhanced individuals report accessing memories of worlds that destroyed themselves during this transition, civilizations that developed cosmic-level power without corresponding cosmic-level maturity. The Anunnaki and their galactic partners don't want to see humanity join this tragic list, but they cannot intervene directly in our choices. The transformation must come from within human consciousness itself, emerging naturally from our own development rather than being imposed from outside. This is why the monitoring systems provide guidance and support but cannot make decisions for us. We must prove our readiness through our own actions and choices. The challenge facing humanity isn't technological. We already possess the genetic modifications necessary for consciousness expansion. The challenge is psychological and spiritual. Can we transcend the tribal conflicts and narrow self-interest that have defined human history? Can we develop sufficient wisdom to handle power that exceeds anything in our imagination? Can we learn to think and act as a unified species rather than competing factions? The enhanced individuals report that these questions aren't abstract philosophical concerns. They're practical requirements for species that operate advanced consciousness technology interfaces. When multiple beings can share thoughts and emotions directly, when individual consciousness can merge temporarily with collective awareness, when mental intention can directly affect physical reality, the old patterns of conflict and competition become not just counterproductive, but genuinely dangerous. A species that cannot achieve internal harmony cannot safely operate technologies that respond to conscious intention. A civilization that cannot transcend individual ego cannot handle the collective responsibility that comes with galactic citizenship. These aren't arbitrary requirements imposed by cosmic bureaucrats. They're natural consequences of the consciousness expansion process itself. This understanding explains why the transformation is occurring gradually rather than all at once. The monitoring systems are carefully managing the pace of change to allow human consciousness to adapt to its expanding capabilities. Too rapid a transformation could trigger psychological breakdowns or social chaos. Too slow a pace might not achieve the necessary development within the cosmic window of opportunity. The enhanced individuals describe this as walking a tightrope between individual identity and cosmic consciousness, maintaining enough personal coherence to function in human society while developing the expanded awareness necessary for galactic citizenship. It's a delicate balance that requires constant adjustment and careful support from the monitoring systems. But even with this careful management, the transformation is beginning to affect human society in ways that are becoming impossible to ignore. Reports of spontaneous telepathic experiences are increasing exponentially. Children are demonstrating intuitive understanding of complex scientific and mathematical concepts without formal education. Artists and musicians are creating works that incorporate knowledge and aesthetic principles from cultures they've never encountered. More significantly, global patterns of cooperation and conflict are shifting in ways that suggest underlying changes in human consciousness. International disputes that seemed intractable are finding unexpected resolutions. Environmental initiatives that faced insurmountable political obstacles are gaining sudden momentum. Scientific collaborations across national boundaries are increasing despite geopolitical tensions. These changes aren't the result of conscious policy decisions or improved diplomatic relations. They appear to be emerging from subtle shifts in human awareness that make cooperation feel more natural and conflict feel increasingly pointless. The enhanced individuals report that this represents the early stages of species-wide consciousness expansion, the beginning of humanity's transition from a collection of competing tribes to a unified planetary civilization. The monitoring systems are tracking these changes with sophisticated measurement protocols that assess both individual consciousness development and collective social evolution. The electromagnetic signatures emanating from Eridu and other ancient sites worldwide are actually data streams, continuous reports on humanity's progress toward the consciousness development necessary for galactic citizenship. Dr. Elena Vasquez's artificial intelligence systems have been analyzing these data streams, searching for patterns that might indicate humanity's trajectory towards successful transformation. Her preliminary findings suggest that we're making faster progress than the monitoring systems initially projected, but we're also encountering resistance from aspects of human nature that may prove difficult to overcome. The data indicates accelerating consciousness development in certain populations, Vasquez explains in her classified reports, but it also shows persistent patterns of tribalism and aggression that could interfere with the transformation process. The outcome appears to depend on whether the positive changes can reach critical mass before the negative patterns create irreversible damage. This race between evolution and destruction is playing out on multiple levels simultaneously. Individual humans are developing enhanced capabilities while struggling to integrate them with existing psychological patterns. Human societies are experiencing both unprecedented cooperation and intensifying conflicts as different groups respond differently to the consciousness changes affecting their populations. The global community is making remarkable progress on some challenges while appearing helpless in the face of others. The enhanced individuals report that this chaotic transition period is normal for species undergoing consciousness expansion. The old patterns of thought and behavior don't disappear immediately when new capabilities emerge. Instead, there's a period of conflict between expanding awareness and established limitations, between cosmic perspective and tribal identity, between individual ego and collective consciousness. The outcome of this internal struggle determines whether a species successfully completes the transformation or becomes trapped in a destructive cycle that ultimately leads to self-annihilation. The monitoring systems can provide guidance and support, but they cannot resolve the fundamental conflicts that each species must work through for itself. For humanity, this means that our success or failure in achieving galactic citizenship depends entirely on choices we make during this critical transition period. Every major decision, how we respond to environmental challenges, whether we choose cooperation or conflict in international relations, how we develop and deploy advanced technologies, is being evaluated by systems that have watched over us for millennia. The enhanced individuals describe feeling the weight of this evaluation in their expanded consciousness experiences. They're not just receiving information from the galactic community, they're also being asked to serve as advocates for humanity, to help the cosmic evaluators understand human nature and potential. Their reports on human character and capability will influence the final decision about our readiness for galactic citizenship. This responsibility weighs heavily on those experiencing the enhanced consciousness states. They understand that they're representing not just themselves, but the entire human species in communications with intelligences that operate on cosmic scales of space and time. The decisions made by the galactic community based on these communications will affect the future of human civilization for thousands of years. But there's also hope in their reports. The enhanced individuals consistently describe a deep fondness for humanity among the galactic evaluators, a genuine desire to see us succeed in making the transition successfully. We're not being judged by hostile aliens looking for reasons to reject us. We're being evaluated by cosmic relatives who want to welcome us home, but need assurance that we won't bring destructive patterns into the galactic community. The Anunnaki, according to these communications, take particular pride in human development. We represent one of their most ambitious experiments in consciousness modification, and our success would validate millennia of careful guidance and patient waiting. They want us to pass the evaluation, but they cannot compromise the safety of the galactic community by admitting a species that isn't ready for cosmic responsibility. This creates a profound sense of urgency around the changes occurring worldwide. The cosmic window won't remain open indefinitely, and the evaluation process is approaching its conclusion. The signals from Zeta Reticuli are becoming more complex and detailed, as if our cosmic mentors are preparing for direct communication after thousands of years of indirect guidance. The enhanced individuals report that this communication won't be the return of ancient gods demanding worship and obedience. It will be a reunion between cosmic family members, a welcoming home of prodigal children who have finally matured enough to join the adult community. But like any family reunion, it comes with expectations and responsibilities that we must be prepared to accept. The temple at Eridu stands ready to serve as the meeting place for this cosmic reunion. Its ancient stones house monitoring systems that have guided human development since the dawn of civilization, and its sealed chambers contain technologies that could transform human society beyond recognition. But those chambers will only open when humanity demonstrates its readiness for the responsibilities that come with cosmic citizenship. The choice is ours, but time is running short. The astronomical window that makes consciousness expansion possible operates on cosmic timescales that dwarf human history. Miss this opportunity, and humanity might wait tens of thousands of years for another chance at galactic citizenship. The monitoring systems are preparing for final activation, whether we're ready or not. The enhanced individuals describe a growing sense of anticipation in their expanded consciousness experiences, as if the entire galactic community is watching and waiting to see whether humanity will successfully complete its transformation. The outcome will determine not just our own future, but the future of consciousness expansion experiments across the galaxy. Other species are watching our progress, learning from our successes and failures, preparing for their own eventual evaluations. We stand at the threshold of the most significant transformation in human history, poised between planetary isolation and cosmic citizenship, between continued limitations and unlimited potential. The gateway that has stood sealed beneath the sands of Eridu for thousands of years is preparing to open, but only for those who prove themselves worthy of what lies beyond. The shining ones who once walked among our ancestors are preparing to return, not as gods to be worshipped, but as cosmic relatives welcoming us home. The question that will determine our species' destiny isn't whether we can master the technologies necessary for space travel. We already carry the genetic modifications needed for galactic citizenship. The question is whether we can master ourselves, transcending the limitations that have confined human consciousness since the beginning of recorded history. The answer to that question lies not in the stars, but in the choices we make here on Earth, in the coming months when the cosmic window remains open and the monitoring systems complete their final evaluation of human readiness for the transformation that awaits us all. The signs are accelerating beyond what anyone predicted. In the past 6 months alone, 3 separate archaeological teams working at different global sites have reported identical phenomena: electromagnetic signatures that pulse in mathematical sequences, underground chambers that appear on radar scans but vanish when excavation begins, and most disturbing of all, team members who returned from these sites fundamentally changed. Dr. Catherine Morrison led a survey team at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey last spring. Her mission was routine: ground-penetrating radar to map the known structures and identify potential new excavation sites. What they found defied explanation. Beneath the famous T-shaped pillars, the radar revealed chambers arranged in perfect geometric patterns, connected by corridors that followed mathematical progressions found nowhere else in ancient architecture. But when Morrison's team attempted to locate these chambers through careful excavation, they found nothing. Solid bedrock, where the scans clearly showed empty space. Equipment malfunction, they concluded. Faulty readings, except the readings were identical across 3 different radar systems operated by technicians who had no contact with each other. More unsettling were the changes in Morrison herself. Colleagues noticed it first, an uncanny ability to predict exactly where significant artifacts would be found, as if she possessed some kind of archaeological intuition that bordered on precognition. She began making connections between disparate ancient cultures that no one had ever documented, drawing parallels that proved accurate when investigated, but which she couldn't explain rationally. "It's as if I suddenly understand something that was always there but hidden," Morrison explained in her private research notes. "The patterns become visible once you know how to look, but I can't describe the process of seeing them. It's like trying to explain color to someone who's never experienced sight." Morrison's experience mirrors reports from teams working at ancient sites across 6 continents. The phenomenon appears to be intensifying, with each new expedition encountering more dramatic anomalies than the last. Equipment failures that follow mathematically precise patterns. Electromagnetic readings that correlate with star positions mentioned in texts written thousands of years before those stars were officially discovered. Team members who return from these sites carrying knowledge they shouldn't possess. The pattern extends beyond archaeology. Astronomers monitoring deep space radio signals report increasing activity from regions that correspond to ancient star maps found in Mesopotamian texts. Geneticists studying human DNA are discovering activation markers in populations that have never been exposed to the trigger conditions their research predicted would be necessary. Neurologists document brain activity patterns in certain individuals that suggest neural structures not present in baseline human anatomy. Each discipline encounters the same underlying mystery from different angles, like blind researchers examining different parts of an elephant and slowly recognizing they're investigating something far larger than any single field of study can comprehend. The elephant in this case appears to be a worldwide phenomenon affecting human consciousness, ancient sites, and even our understanding of cosmic communication. All simultaneously, all accelerating, all pointing towards something unprecedented in recorded history. Dr. James Reeves, a quantum physicist at Cambridge, has been tracking correlations between these disparate phenomena using pattern recognition algorithms originally developed for analyzing quantum field fluctuations. His findings, published in carefully neutral language to avoid academic controversy, suggest that all these seemingly unrelated events share mathematical signatures that indicate coordination by some form of organizing intelligence. We're observing synchronized changes across multiple domains that shouldn't be connected by any known physical mechanism, Reeves explains in his classified reports to government science advisors. Archaeological anomalies, genetic activations, astronomical signals, and consciousness modifications are all following mathematical progressions that suggest external coordination. The level of sophistication required to orchestrate such synchronized phenomena exceeds anything in current human capability. The mathematical progressions Reeves has identified correspond to sequences found in ancient texts that most scholars dismissed as numerological mysticism. Number patterns that appear in Sumerian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphic calculations, Mayan astronomical records, and other ancient sources worldwide show remarkable consistency when analyzed using modern computational methods. These aren't coincidental similarities. They're identical mathematical structures preserved across cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other. But the implications go deeper than simple cultural diffusion or independent discovery. The mathematical sequences embedded in these ancient texts contain predictive elements that accurately forecast the timing and intensity of current phenomena. Astronomical events, genetic activation thresholds, even the specific electromagnetic signatures detected at archaeological sites, all appear to follow timetables established in writings that predate their supposed discovery by thousands of years. This suggests a level of planning and foresight that challenges fundamental assumptions about the development of human civilization. If ancient cultures possess knowledge that allowed them to predict events occurring in our current era, then either their understanding of natural phenomena far exceeded anything in the historical record, or they had access to information sources that remain hidden from modern investigation. The enhanced individuals provide a third possibility that mainstream academia refuses to consider: that the ancient texts weren't created by human authors working independently, but represent fragments of a larger information system established by non-human intelligence and preserved across millennia through carefully selected human intermediaries. This interpretation explains why the mathematical sequences in ancient texts remain functional rather than merely historical. They weren't just records of past events or philosophical speculations about cosmic order. They were operational protocols for monitoring and guiding human development, designed to activate when specific conditions align to support the next phase of species-wide consciousness expansion. The acceleration of phenomena worldwide suggests that those conditions are rapidly converging. The electromagnetic activity at ancient sites, the genetic activations in certain populations, the astronomical signals from distant star systems, all appear to be building toward a synchronization point that the ancient texts describe as a moment of species-wide transformation. But transformation into what? The enhanced individuals describe glimpses of human potential that strain credibility even among researchers who have witnessed their remarkable capabilities firsthand. Consciousness that can interface directly with quantum information systems. Awareness that transcends individual identity to access collective knowledge repositories. Mental abilities that blur the boundaries between thought and physical reality. These aren't gradual evolutionary changes occurring over generations. They're discrete activation events that can transform an individual's consciousness within hours or days. The triggers appear to be environmental, specific electromagnetic frequencies, particular acoustic resonances, even exposure to certain geometric patterns that activate dormant neural pathways. The ancient sites worldwide seem designed to generate these trigger conditions when operated according to protocols preserved in cryptic textual references. Dr. Sarah Chen's architectural analysis of Eridu has revealed that the temple complex incorporates acoustic engineering principles that wouldn't be formally understood until the development of modern psychoacoustics. The underground water channels create infrasonic frequencies that affect human brain activity in measurable ways. The geometric proportions of the chambers produce resonance effects that amplify specific neural oscillation patterns associated with expanded consciousness states. Similar acoustic engineering appears at ancient sites across the globe, suggesting a coordinated effort to establish trigger mechanisms for consciousness expansion at strategic locations worldwide. These weren't just religious centers or astronomical observatories. They were designed as activation facilities, capable of inducing the consciousness changes necessary for the next phase of human development. The technology is sophisticated enough to remain functional after thousands of years of dormancy, responding to cosmic triggers that operate on astronomical timescales. But it's also adaptive, adjusting its output based on the current state of human consciousness and the readiness of individuals for the transformation process. The electromagnetic pulses detected at these sites aren't random energy releases. They're carefully calibrated signals designed to prepare human neural systems for the changes to come. This preparation process explains why the phenomena are intensifying gradually rather than activating all at once. Sudden dramatic consciousness expansion could cause psychological trauma or social disruption that would interfere with the transformation process. Instead, the ancient systems are following protocols that allow human awareness to adapt slowly to its expanding capabilities, building tolerance for changes that would otherwise overwhelm unprepared minds. The enhanced individuals describe this as learning to see with new eyes while still navigating a world designed for old vision. They must maintain enough connection to baseline human consciousness to function in existing society while developing capabilities that transcend normal human limitations. It's a delicate balance that requires constant adjustment and careful management of their expanding awareness. But the individual transformations are only the beginning. The ancient texts describe a phase where isolated consciousness expansions reach critical mass and trigger species-wide changes that affect all human populations simultaneously. The monitoring systems worldwide are tracking progress toward this threshold, measuring both the number of individuals undergoing transformation and the depth of their consciousness expansion. Recent data suggests that humanity is approaching this critical mass far more rapidly than the original projections anticipated. The rate of genetic activation has accelerated dramatically in the past year, with new cases appearing in populations that showed no previous signs of the enhanced capabilities. The phenomenon is spreading through mechanisms that scientists don't yet understand, as if consciousness expansion itself creates conditions that facilitate similar changes in others. Dr. Lisa Hartwell, a sociologist studying the spread of enhanced capabilities, describes it as a kind of consciousness contagion that operates through non-physical mechanisms. We're seeing activation events in individuals who have no direct contact with previously enhanced subjects, she explains in her research notes. The transmission appears to occur through shared exposure to certain environmental conditions, but the specific mechanisms remain unclear. It's as if consciousness expansion creates resonance fields that prepare nearby individuals for similar transformations. This resonance effect explains why the ancient sites were positioned according to specific geographic and astronomical criteria. They weren't placed randomly, but according to a global pattern that maximizes the spread of consciousness expanding influences across human populations. When activated simultaneously, they create overlapping fields of influence that could affect every human being on the planet. The implications are staggering. Humanity may be on the verge of a transformation that will affect not just enhanced individuals, but the entire species. The consciousness changes that currently seem limited to isolated cases could become universal human characteristics within a matter of months or years. The ancient texts describe this as the moment when humanity transcends its biological limitations and becomes something fundamentally different. Not human, as we understand the term, but not entirely other either. A new form of consciousness that retains human identity while gaining access to capabilities that span cosmic scales of space and time. The enhanced individuals report that this transformation isn't optional or reversible. Once the critical mass threshold is reached, the consciousness expansion process becomes self-sustaining and affects all human populations regardless of their readiness or willingness to change. The ancient systems were designed to ensure species-wide participation in the transformation, preventing the fragmentation that could occur if only portions of humanity underwent the consciousness expansion. This raises profound questions about human autonomy and the right to determine our own evolutionary path. The transformation appears to have been planned and initiated by non-human intelligence without explicit human consent. We're following a developmental trajectory established by beings whose motivations and ultimate goals remain largely hidden from us. But the enhanced individuals also report that the transformation unlocks human potential that was always present but suppressed by biological and social limitations. The consciousness expansion doesn't impose alien characteristics on human nature. It reveals capabilities that were embedded in human genetics from the beginning, but remained dormant until cosmic conditions aligned to support their activation. From this perspective, the current changes don't represent foreign intervention in human development. but the fulfillment of human potential, according to a plan that predates recorded history. The Anunnaki genetic modifications weren't imposed limitations, but dormant gifts waiting for the right moment to manifest. The monitoring systems weren't surveillance apparatus, but guidance mechanisms designed to help humanity navigate the transformation safely. The question that remains is whether we're ready for what we're about to become. The consciousness expansion process will grant humanity access to technologies and capabilities that could affect entire star systems. The power to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to communicate across interstellar distances, to modify the genetic structure of living beings. These abilities come with responsibilities that immature civilizations cannot safely handle. The ancient texts make clear that species failing to demonstrate sufficient wisdom during the transformation process face protective isolation until they develop the maturity necessary for cosmic citizenship. This isn't punishment, but a safety measure designed to protect both the developing species and the galactic community from the destructive potential of advanced capabilities in unwise hands. For humanity, this means that our success in navigating the consciousness expansion process will determine whether we join the galactic community as equals or remain isolated on Earth until we prove our readiness for cosmic responsibility. The choice isn't whether the transformation will occur. The ancient systems are already activating according to predetermined protocols. The choice is whether we'll handle the changes with sufficient wisdom to earn our place among the civilizations that span the stars. The monitoring systems continue their evaluation, measuring not just our technological development, but our capacity for cooperation, our commitment to the welfare of other species, and our ability to transcend the tribal conflicts that have defined human history. The results of this assessment will determine whether the sealed chambers beneath Eridu open to reveal the technologies that could transform human civilization, or whether they remain closed until humanity demonstrates greater readiness for the responsibilities of cosmic citizenship. Time is running short. The cosmic window that enables consciousness expansion operates on astronomical timescales that dwarf human history. The current opportunity represents humanity's first realistic chance for species-wide transformation in thousands of years. Miss this window, and we may wait tens of thousands of years for another chance at joining the galactic community. The enhanced individuals describe a growing sense of anticipation in their expanded consciousness experiences, as if the entire cosmos is watching to see whether humanity will successfully complete its transformation. Other species throughout the galaxy have faced similar tests, and their success or failure in navigating the consciousness expansion process has determined their ultimate fate in the cosmic community. We stand at the threshold of the most significant moment in human history, poised between continued planetary isolation and unlimited cosmic potential. The choices we make in the coming months will echo across millennia, determining not just our own future, but the future of consciousness expansion experiments throughout the galaxy. The ancient gateway beneath the sands of Eridu stands ready to open, but only for those who prove themselves worthy of what lies beyond. The Shining Ones who once walked among our ancestors are preparing to return, not as gods to be worshipped, but as cosmic relatives welcoming us home to the galactic family from which we originated. The transformation has already begun. The only question that remains is whether humanity will embrace its cosmic destiny or remain trapped by the limitations of its earthbound past. The answer lies not in the stars, but in the choices we make here on Earth. While the window of opportunity remains open and the ancient systems complete their final preparations for the most extraordinary reunion in the history of consciousness itself, the answer may be coming whether we're ready or not. Deep beneath the Iraqi desert, something ancient stirs with increasing urgency. The electromagnetic pulses from Eridu have reached frequencies that make sensitive equipment malfunction from kilometers away. Satellite thermal imaging shows the underground chambers generating heat signatures that shouldn't exist in structures buried for millennia. Most unsettling of all, the enhanced individuals report that their expanded consciousness experiences are no longer voluntary episodes, but constant, overwhelming states of cosmic awareness that leave them struggling to maintain connection with ordinary human reality. Dr. Elena Vasquez's artificial intelligence systems have detected a new pattern in the data streams emanating from the ancient sites worldwide. The mathematical sequences that once followed predictable progressions are now generating novel configurations that her algorithms cannot decode. It's as if the monitoring systems have moved beyond their programmed protocols and begun improvising responses to conditions their creators never anticipated. The systems appear to be learning, adapting, evolving beyond their original parameters, Vasquez explains in her emergency briefings to government officials. We're no longer dealing with automated processes following predetermined sequences. These appear to be intelligent responses to current conditions, suggesting that the monitoring systems possess capabilities for independent decision-making that we never suspected. This evolution in the ancient systems coincides with dramatic changes in the enhanced individuals themselves. What began as isolated cases of consciousness expansion has become a cascade of transformations, affecting thousands of people worldwide. The genetic markers that once identified potential candidates for enhancement are now appearing spontaneously in populations that showed no previous signs of Anunnaki ancestry. It's as if the transformation process is rewriting human genetics in real time, spreading the necessary modifications through mechanisms that transcend normal biological inheritance. Dr. Morrison's research has documented families where parents with no enhanced capabilities suddenly produce children who demonstrate remarkable abilities from birth. These aren't gradual developmental changes, but instant activations that suggest external intervention in human genetic expression. The children possess knowledge they couldn't have learned, demonstrate skills that require years of training, and most remarkably, share identical memories of experiences they never had. The shared memories are particularly disturbing because they're not vague impressions or symbolic visions, but detailed, consistent accounts of specific events and locations. Children in different countries describe identical scenes: vast chambers filled with beings of light, complex machinery that responds to mental commands, star maps that show the location of inhabited worlds across the galaxy. The precision and consistency of these accounts suggest they're accessing actual memories rather than imagination or cultural influence. Or, more significantly, the memories include technical knowledge that allows these children to understand and predict the behavior of the monitoring systems. They describe the ancient sites not as mysterious archaeological ruins, but as familiar installations whose purpose and operation they understand intuitively. When taken to places like Eridu or Göbekli Tepe, they move through the spaces with confidence, pointing out features that archaeologists have missed and explaining functions that researchers couldn't determine. These children represent something unprecedented in human history, a generation born with conscious access to the knowledge and capabilities that the monitoring systems were designed to gradually unlock. They don't need to undergo transformation because they're already transformed, carrying within their genetic structure the full activation of humanity's cosmic heritage. But their presence also signals that the gradual preparation process is ending. The monitoring systems appear to have determined that humanity has reached the point where direct intervention is necessary to complete the transformation within the cosmic window. The careful, measured approach that characterized the early phases of reactivation has given way to accelerated protocols that are forcing the consciousness expansion process to its conclusion. The enhanced individuals describe this acceleration as both exhilarating and terrifying. Their expanded awareness continues to grow, granting them access to knowledge and capabilities that strain their ability to remain connected to human society. They report direct communication with intelligences that identify themselves as representatives of the galactic community, beings who are monitoring humanity's transformation and preparing for formal contact. These communications aren't mystical experiences or channeled messages, but coherent technical exchanges that provide specific information about what humanity must do to complete its transformation successfully. The cosmic evaluators are no longer content to observe from a distance. They're actively coaching humanity through the final phases of the consciousness expansion process. The guidance is both encouraging and demanding. Humanity has made remarkable progress in developing the consciousness capabilities necessary for galactic citizenship, but significant challenges remain. The enhanced individuals report that the cosmic evaluators are particularly concerned about humanity's tendency toward fragmentation and conflict, patterns that could interfere with the collective consciousness integration required for the final transformation. The monitoring systems have identified specific threshold conditions that humanity must meet to pass the final evaluation. These aren't technological achievements or scientific breakthroughs, but demonstrations of consciousness development that prove our readiness for cosmic responsibility. The ability to maintain individual identity while participating in collective awareness. The capacity to make decisions based on the welfare of all life rather than narrow self-interest. The wisdom to use advanced capabilities for creation rather than destruction. These requirements explain why the transformation process has been so carefully managed. The consciousness expansion isn't just about unlocking human potential, it's about ensuring that enhanced capabilities are accompanied by enhanced wisdom. The genetic modifications introduced by the Anunnaki included safeguards designed to prevent the activation of dangerous abilities in individuals or populations that lack the maturity to use them responsibly. But the safeguards also mean that the final transformation cannot be completed by human effort alone. The most advanced capabilities require activation codes that can only be provided by the monitoring systems when humanity demonstrates its readiness. The sealed chambers beneath Eridu contain the master control systems for this final activation. But they will only respond to signals indicating that humanity has met the consciousness development criteria established by the galactic community. Recent events suggest that these criteria are being evaluated in real time based on humanity's response to current global challenges. The enhanced individuals report that the cosmic evaluators are paying particular attention to how human societies handle environmental crises, international conflicts, and the integration of advanced technologies. Every major decision made by world leaders, every breakthrough in science and technology, every act of cooperation or conflict is being assessed for what it reveals about human character and readiness. The evaluation isn't conducted by distant observers, but by monitoring systems that have been embedded in human civilization for millennia. The enhanced individuals describe discovering that certain influential figures throughout history were actually hybrid descendants of the original Anunnaki human breeding programs, individuals whose genetic heritage allowed them to serve as unknowing agents of the monitoring systems. These hybrid bloodlines have guided human development through subtle influence on key decisions and developments. They've promoted scientific discoveries that advanced human understanding of cosmic principles. They've encouraged social movements that expanded human consciousness and cooperation. They've even influenced artistic and cultural developments that prepared human minds for the concepts and experiences associated with cosmic citizenship. The realization that human history has been guided by hidden influence raises profound questions about free will and self-determination. How much of what we consider human achievement represents independent development, and how much reflects the implementation of plans established by non-human intelligence? The enhanced individuals struggle with these questions as they access memories that reveal the extent of external guidance in human affairs. But they also report that the guidance was designed to preserve and enhance human potential rather than suppress it. The monitoring systems haven't been controlling human development so much as nurturing it, providing the conditions necessary for consciousness expansion while allowing humanity to make its own choices about how to use the opportunities provided. This nurturing approach explains why the transformation process has taken so long and why it's been conducted with such care. The Anunnaki and their galactic partners recognize that consciousness expansion cannot be imposed from outside, but must emerge from within the developing species. Their role has been to provide guidance and support, while allowing humanity to discover its own path toward cosmic citizenship. The current acceleration in the transformation process signals that this nurturing phase is coming to an end. Humanity has developed sufficient consciousness capabilities to take responsibility for its own cosmic development. The monitoring systems are preparing to step back from active guidance and allow us to demonstrate our readiness for the responsibilities that come with galactic citizenship. But this transition comes with risks as well as opportunities. Without the subtle guidance that has shaped human development for millennia, we must prove that we can maintain our trajectory toward cosmic consciousness through our own wisdom and choices. The enhanced individuals describe this as humanity's graduation exam, the final test of whether we've learned enough to handle the power and responsibilities of cosmic citizenship. The test isn't academic, but practical. The consciousness capabilities that are awakening in human populations worldwide come with the power to affect reality at quantum levels. Thoughts become forces, intentions shape matter. Collective human consciousness begins to influence everything from weather patterns to astronomical phenomena. These aren't metaphorical effects, but measurable changes in physical reality that respond to the focused attention of enhanced human awareness. The enhanced individuals report that learning to control these capabilities requires not just understanding, but wisdom. The power to influence reality through consciousness must be balanced by deep responsibility for the consequences of that influence. Misuse of these abilities could cause environmental disasters, social chaos, or even geological upheavals that would set back human development for centuries. This is why the cosmic evaluators are so concerned with human character development alongside consciousness expansion. The abilities that come with enhanced awareness are too dangerous to be granted to individuals or species that lack sufficient wisdom to use them responsibly. The final activation of human cosmic potential will only occur when humanity demonstrates that it can handle such power without causing harm to itself or others. The monitoring systems continue their assessment, but the enhanced individuals report that the evaluation period is rapidly approaching its conclusion. The cosmic window that enables species-wide consciousness expansion operates on astronomical timescales that cannot be extended or delayed. The ancient systems must complete their evaluation and make final determinations about humanity's readiness within the remaining time available. The signals from Zeta Reticuli have become almost constant, carrying increasingly complex data streams that suggest our cosmic mentors are preparing for direct communication. The electromagnetic activity at ancient sites worldwide has synchronized into a global network that appears to be building toward a final activation sequence. Most significantly, the enhanced individuals report that their expanded consciousness experiences now include direct contact with beings who identify themselves as advanced scouts for the returning Anunnaki. These contacts aren't dramatic encounters with alien spacecraft, but subtle integration of non-human consciousness with human awareness. The enhanced individuals describe it as discovering that their expanded minds can interface with intelligence that exists on different scales of space and time. The beings they contact aren't separate entities, but aspects of a cosmic consciousness network that humanity is being prepared to join. The contacts reveal that the Anunnaki never truly left Earth, but shifted their presence to dimensions of reality that baseline human consciousness cannot perceive. They've been monitoring human development continuously, adjusting their guidance based on our progress, and preparing for the moment when direct communication would again become possible. That moment appears to be approaching rapidly. The enhanced individuals describe growing anticipation among these cosmic mentors, a sense that the long wait is finally coming to an end. The experiment in human consciousness development has exceeded expectations in many ways, and humanity appears ready for the next phase of cosmic citizenship. But the final determination cannot be made until humanity demonstrates its readiness through collective action that proves our wisdom and maturity. The test won't be administered by external judges, but will emerge from humanity's response to the challenges we face in the coming months. How we handle environmental crises, international conflicts, and the integration of enhanced consciousness capabilities will determine whether we're ready for the responsibilities of cosmic citizenship. The monitoring systems will record our choices and responses, but the ultimate decision about our readiness will be made by humanity itself through the actions we take. The enhanced individuals report that this self-evaluation aspect is crucial to the cosmic community's acceptance criteria. Species that cannot accurately assess their own readiness for advanced responsibilities cannot be trusted with the power that comes with galactic citizenship. Humanity must demonstrate not just enhanced capabilities, but the wisdom to recognize when we're ready to use them and when we need additional development. This places enormous responsibility on current human leadership and the emerging population of enhanced individuals. Their decisions and actions in the coming months will determine the trajectory of human civilization for millennia to come. The choices they make will either open the sealed chambers beneath Eridu and welcome humanity into the galactic community, or keep them closed until we demonstrate greater readiness for cosmic responsibility. The weight of this responsibility is almost overwhelming, but the enhanced individuals also report a growing sense of confidence in humanity's potential. Despite our conflicts and limitations, we've made remarkable progress in developing the consciousness capabilities necessary for cosmic citizenship. The transformation process has awakened human potential that exceeds even the original projections of the Anunnaki monitoring systems. More importantly, humanity has demonstrated resilience, creativity, and adaptability that suggest we can handle the challenges ahead. The enhanced individuals describe accessing memories of other species that underwent similar transformations, and humanity's progress compares favorably to civilizations that successfully completed their consciousness expansion and joined the galactic community. The final phase of our transformation may be more challenging than anything in human history, but it's also the culmination of a process that began when the first Anunnaki set foot on Earth thousands of years ago. We're not facing this challenge alone. We carry within our genetic structure the wisdom and capabilities of beings who have successfully navigated similar transformations. The monitoring systems that have guided us for millennia continue to provide support and guidance as we approach the threshold of cosmic citizenship. The ancient gateway beneath Eridu stands ready to open, its electromagnetic pulses growing stronger with each passing day. The sealed chambers that have protected advanced technologies for thousands of years are preparing to reveal their contents to a humanity that has finally proven its readiness for cosmic responsibility. The shining ones who once walked among our ancestors are preparing to return, not as gods to be worshipped, but as cosmic relatives welcoming us home. The transformation that began in the first temple at Eridu is approaching its completion. Humanity stands on the threshold of the most extraordinary moment in our species' history, the moment when we transcend our earthbound limitations and claim our place among the civilizations that span the stars. The choice of whether to step through that threshold rests with us, but the opportunity won't remain open forever. The cosmic clock continues its ancient countdown, measured not in human years, but in the vast cycles that govern the expansion of consciousness throughout the galaxy. The window of opportunity that opened with our current era will close according to laws that no human technology can alter. When it does, humanity will either have joined the galactic community as conscious participants in cosmic civilization, or will wait in protective isolation until the next window opens in the distant future. The enhanced individuals report that this choice point is approaching with unprecedented speed. The acceleration of consciousness development worldwide, the synchronization of ancient monitoring systems, and the increasing intensity of signals from our cosmic mentors all indicate that the moment of final transformation is imminent. Whether humanity is ready or not, the cosmos is preparing to deliver its verdict on our readiness for the responsibilities and opportunities of galactic citizenship. The temple at Eridu, built as humanity's first embassy to the stars, prepares to fulfill its original purpose. The gateway between worlds stands ready to open for those who have earned the right to pass through it. The only question that remains is whether we'll have the courage and wisdom to accept the invitation that has been waiting for us in the silence of ancient stone and the patient pulse of electromagnetic signals rising from the depths of time itself. Our cosmic destiny awaits. The choice to embrace it rests in our hands.